Chapter 4258. The clamor and the atmosphere immediately attracted the attention of many people in the surroundings. Someone saw an exclusive scarlet blood BMW outside the crowd. It's actually Princess Xia Zhu. Who provoked Princess Xia Zhu? So daring. Does she not want her life anymore? I heard that it seems to be the niece that Lord Bone Lord brought back. Lord Bone Lord's niece? How did these two people get into a fight? Princess Xia Zhu had always been the most respected lady in the old city. Now that Lord Bone Lord's niece entered the city and replaced her position, how could Princess Xia Zhu not be angry? This is the era of competing for background. Princess Xia Zhu's background is not as good as Lord Bone Lord's niece, so naturally, she can only give up her position. The surrounding profound practitioners, on the other hand, were discussing happily. That Lord Bone Lord's niece seems to be a waste without any profound energy. Earlier, when Princess Xia Zhu made her move, it was Miss Yun from the Gu residence who helped her to block it. Waste? It can't be. How could a waste come to the heaven realm? Lord Bone Lord is so powerful. How could the lady that he personally brought back be a waste? Instantly, the public opinion took a turn. On the basis of the 3 outer layers, another 3 layers were added. All of them wanted to see what was the disparity between the most respected number 1 lady in the old city and the newly appointed number 1 lady. Yiqing Luo more or less heard the surrounding people's discussions, and more or less understood the reason why the lady in front of her suddenly went up to find fault. It was merely because she was used to being arrogant and couldn't accept a lady who appeared out of nowhere and snatched away the glory that belonged to her, no matter if it was the lower realm or the heaven realm. Power and status were what the cultivators pursued and yearned for. Eldest Miss, I'm sorry. I'll settle Princess Xia Zhu immediately and won't disturb her mood. Guyan held Princess Xia Zhu as she spoke to Yiqing Luo warmly. Settle. These 2 words were a little insulting to this high and mighty princess. As expected, after hearing Gu Yun's words, Princess Xia Zhu was so angry that her face flushed red, green, and white. Gu Yun, if you dare to offend your superior, I will immediately get someone to kill you. Gu Yun's face was expressionless, showing no signs of fear. A cold light flashed across Princess Xia Zhu's eyes. She glanced at the crowd and was about to speak when she heard a clear and sweet voice. Gu Yun, let her go. It was the niece of the Bone Lord. Princess Xia Zhu's pupils contracted as she stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Gu Yun was slightly stunned as she looked at Yiqing Luo in puzzlement. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a sweet smile. In this place where the strong are respected, if you don't have the ability, you will indeed be doubted by others. Especially for Princess Xia Zhu's side, she's a heaven's pride, a powerful person. As she spoke, she deliberately emphasized the word powerful. His gaze swept over her arm, which was clamped by Gu Yun in a mocking manner. His tone was filled with obvious mockery. But Princess Xia Zhu apparently didn't hear Yiqing Luo's implied meaning. Hearing Yiqing Luo praising him, his face immediately revealed a complacent expression. Of course, ever since I was young, I was known as the genius child of the old city. I've devoted myself to cultivation and spent so much effort to get to where I am today. The people around them couldn't help but burst into laughter. Genius child? Devoted herself to cultivation. Chapter 4259. It was simply too embarrassing, but after the laughter, everyone turned their faces away and pretended to be serious, not letting Princess Xia Zhu find out. After all, the other party was Princess Xia Zhu. They still wanted to live on. Between the 2 of them, no one could be offended. Just let them be quiet and expressionless onlookers. Towards the sudden laughter of the crowd, the sudden seriousness. Princess Xia Zhu indeed didn't notice the deep meaning behind it, as all her thoughts were placed on Yiqing Luo. Eldest Miss, Gu Yun revealed a difficult expression as she glanced at Princess Xia Zhu hesitantly. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she smiled at her. No matter. Gu Yun pursed her lips and finally listened to Yiqing Luo's command as she let go of Princess Xia Zhu and turned around to return to Yiqing Luo's side. At the same time, Princess Xiaoju's eyes turned cold as a sinister gaze flashed past. The moment Gu Yun let go of her and turned around, boundless profound rays gathered on both palms as it struck down towards Gu Yun's back. Be careful. The moment Princess Xiaoju made her move, Yiqing Luo noticed her actions. Subconsciously, she grabbed Gu Yun with one hand and pulled her over. The other hand drew out a dazzling red ray. Clang! The sound of the palms colliding resounded. Gu Yun's reaction was swift as she quickly grabbed Yiqing Luo tightly and brought her out of the range of the profound wave. When she turned back, a rare look of astonishment surfaced on her face, only to see the place where she was standing earlier. The profound wave's rays continued to expand as it spread in all directions. But it was stopped in midair as it was unable to attack towards their direction no matter what. Taking a closer look, Gu Yun saw, in that profound wave, a feather fan, which was like a raging flame, went against that profound wave. It actually forced that profound wave to retreat. Feather fan? What was that? It seemed that it was thrown out from eldest Mrs. hands. Just at this moment, the profound wave was forced to retreat. That feather fan also fell from midair. Glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo opened her palm towards the glower flame fan, but she who had no profound energy was unable to use it freely. A dong sound was heard. The glower flame fan fell onto the ground. The red glow flickered for a moment before disappearing. There was a strange silence all around. Everyone stared at the red feather fan on the ground in astonishment. Other than the fact that it was made of precious materials, it was just an ordinary item. However, this ordinary object had actually blocked Princess Xiaoju's all-out attack just now. Were they seeing things? Princess Xiaoju was also shocked, glaring at the red feather fan on the ground. He felt as if he was going to spit fire. When Gu Yun moved, she headed towards the devouring flame fan. Princess Xiaoju suddenly reacted and shouted sternly, "Snatch the fan back from me." As soon as Princess Xiaoju finished speaking, outside the crowd, 5 men in tight clothes suddenly flew out and quickly rushed toward Gu Yun. The 3 of them stopped Gu Yun. The 2 of them quickly approached the glowing flame fan. Gu Yun's eyes turned cold. Profound ripples surged as she slammed her palm towards the person who was blocking her. She could tell. The eldest miss attached great importance to the feather fan. Just now, the eldest miss had thrown out that feather fan in order to save her. She would never allow Princess Xiaoju to snatch eldest Mrs. Feather Fan. Thinking of this, Gu Yun's expression turned even colder as her 5 fingers clenched tightly. The profound rays suddenly shook, and those 2 men had already rushed to the side of the glowing flame fan. They stretched out their hands, and that glowing flame fan. Chapter 4260. A fiery red shadow, like a fireball. Just as that man withdrew his hand, the glower flame fan on the ground had already disappeared. The men quickly looked towards the direction of the red shadow. They saw a little bird fluttering its wings, hanging in its mouth, was that red feather fan. So, that man shrieked miserably and withdrew his hand. Was he pecked by this bird? Damn bird! The well-dressed men quickly flew towards the bird. When that red shadow appeared, Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly tightened. It was Qi Yin. When did it fly over to the glower flame fan? Yiqing Luo quickly stepped forward and took Qi Yin into her arms. Qi Yin placed the glower flame fan in Yiqing Luo's hands and snorted coldly. In the end, I still have to do it. You're really useless. Yiqing Luo rubbed its fluffy phoenix feathers and whispered, "Next time, don't act on your own. What if you get injured?" "I will get injured? What a joke. A human who can injure me has not been born in this world." Qi Yin proudly raised its little head. Yiqing Luo pinched its injured paw. "Wait till you've recovered, then say this again." "Qi Yin, this is your war pet." Princess Xiaoju's sharp voice was heard. Yiqing Luo hugged Qi Yin tightly and raised her eyes vigilantly. But she saw the surrounding people, looking at her with extremely astonished and horrified eyes. No, to be more precise, they were staring at Qi-yin in her arms. Especially Princess Xiaoju's eyes. It was even more fiery. Eldest young miss. Guyan seemed to have realized something as she forced the three men in front of her to retreat and speedily returned to Yi-Qing Luo's side as she grabbed her arm. Oh no, I forgot to remind eldest young miss. You must never let anyone know that eldest young miss Pet can speak human language. I will escort eldest young miss back to the Gu residence now. Yi-Qing Luo understood. These people were shocked that Qi-yin could talk to her when they were in Nirvana realm. A war pet that could speak human language was indeed eye-catching. In this heaven realm, there were very few war pets that could speak human language. Guyan had the intention to bring Yi-Qing Luo away, but Princess Xiaoju's vision was already glued to Qi-yin. Want to leave? Her lips curled upwards as her figure speedily closed in on Yi-Qing Luo. Compared to the feather fan, she was more interested in the battle pet that could talk. Guyan swiftly protected Yi-Qing Luo and retaliated with a palm strike. Both sides took a few steps back. Yi-Qing Luo stretched out her hand and placed it on Guyan's shoulder. She curled her lips, patted Guyan's shoulder lightly, and shook her head slightly. Guyan's pupils shook. She looked in the direction of Princess Xiaoju. Eldest miss, this servant is worried since Bloodbone. Bone Monarch has already announced my identity. He will naturally not watch as I am bullied. Bullying me is equivalent to insulting the Bone residents. Yi-Qing Luo explained softly, since she's feeling indignant, then let her give up. Give up? In the heaven realm, if you want to make someone give up, or kill the man. Otherwise, he would be above that person, leaving no room for that person to turn the tables. But how could eldest miss do these two things? Guyan had been serving Yi-Qing Luo and naturally knew that Yi-Qing Luo had no profound energy. This was a place where strength reigned supreme. How could Yi-Qing Luo, who had no profound energy, suppress Princess Xiaoju? Yi-Qing Luo smiled till her eyes were curved. Believe me, the young lady was obviously smiling, and her tone was extremely gentle. But Guyan inexplicably felt a chill down her spine. Chapter 42-61. The hand which was blocking in front of Yi-Qing Luo was slowly put down. She believed in eldest Mississippi, and believed in Bone Lord's trust towards eldest Mississippi, seeing Guyan retreating. Princess Xiaoju's eyes flashed past as her lips curled into a cold arc. Now, this princess thinks highly of you. She paused and curled her lips coldly. Since you want to seek your own death, this princess shall fulfill your wish. After killing this so-called eldest miss, that battle pet which could speak human language would belong to her. Princess Xiaoju had no intention to conceal the murderous intent in her eyes. Guyan watched from the side, unable to restrain the anxiety on her face. But when she saw Yi-Qing Luo's indifferent expression, she suppressed the urge to rush up. But her body maintained a vigilant posture, ready to rush up if Yi-Qing Luo was no match for her. Your Highness. Beside Princess Xiaoju was a maid who looked to be in her 20s. From her dressing, she should be Princess Xiaoju's personal maid, as she called out to her in a low voice. Princess Xiaoju restrained her imposing manner slightly as she turned her head to look at the maid. Ying, what's the matter? This person cannot be killed. The maid who was addressed as Ying moved closer to Princess Xiaoju's ear as she lowered her voice. Although the Emperor has the intention to suppress Bone Lord's power, but this can only be done in secret. If your Highness kills Bone Lord's niece, it would be equivalent to offending Bone Lord. Princess Xiaoju's expression congealed as the murderous intent in her eyes gradually dissipated. But her expression was still gloomy. Then what should we do? Ying muttered to herself for a moment as she glanced at Yi-Qing Luo from the corner of her eyes. This person relies on Bone Lord and is arrogant and despotic. Your Highness just needs to teach her a lesson. After this, if Bone Lord blames you, Your Highness just need to say that it was eldest Miss who insisted on being strong and initiated to provoke you. These commoners present can all testify. As for your highness, you just don't know that she is a waste and didn't stop in time. Hearing Yu Ying's words, Princess Xiaoju's face revealed a complacent smile. She raised her hand and patted Yu Ying's shoulder lightly. All right, I will do as you say. Immediately, Princess Xiaoju turned around and looked at Yi Qing Luo with a sinister smile as her lips curled. Without any explanation, the palm wind surged and struck towards Yi Qing Luo's face. Princess Xiaoju was extremely fast. Yi Qing Luo only felt that a hurricane was raging. The bone-piercing cold wind brought along a tyrannical force as it came crashing down. She could feel Princess Xiaoju's movements. He could feel the arc of her attack. Not far away, the two figures hidden in the dark looked at the scene in front of them hesitantly. The man's face darkened when he saw Princess Xiaoju make a move, and there was some disdain in his eyes. However, he still spat on the ground and prepared to charge forward with a cold face, still not moving. However, his arm was pulled back by the lady behind him. Gu Yi, didn't eldest miss vow to prove her strength and make Princess Xiaoju retreat in the face of difficulties? Since she's so capable, why do we need to do anything? The man's body stiffened. His gaze fell on the young girl who stood there motionlessly, as if she had been scared silly by Princess Xiaoju's attack. His expression turned even uglier. If anything happens to her, Bone Lord will not let us off, he said. The lady gave a cold snort. We are merely helping her to prove her strength. She is the lady chosen by Lord Bone Lord, and she doesn't even have this bit of ability? The man's gloomy face remained expressionless. Chapter 4262. To tell the truth, towards this eldest young miss who suddenly appeared. In the entire Gu residence, other than Gu Yun, no one was willing to accept her wholeheartedly, especially the two of them, as secret guards of the Gu residence. They couldn't follow their master to dangerous places to protect their master's safety, but were arranged to stay in the Gu residence to protect this eldest young miss's safety at all times. How could they remain calm in their hearts? Especially this eldest young miss, who wasn't someone who didn't make others worry. They arranged to protect eldest young miss because they naturally knew that eldest young miss was a waste without any profound energy. So be if she was a waste. Anyway, she had Bone Lord's protection. As long as she was safe and stable, she would definitely have a place in this heaven realm. But this waste still wanted to create trouble, and even provoked Princess Xiaoju. Did she really think that she was someone? Seeing Gu Yi's expression changed, the lady's lips curled coldly as she took the opportunity to say, no matter how unruly Princess Xiaoju is, she's after all a member of the royal family, so she wouldn't be so silly to really kill eldest young Mississippi. Why not take this opportunity to teach her a lesson, in case she finds out that we are secretly protecting her, and create more trouble unscrupulously? The lady's words had completely hit the bottom of Gu Yi's heart. In the end, the two of them didn't move as their gazes shifted onto Yi Qing Luo. Bam! In the air, there was a dull explosion. The surrounding stalls, which were set up on the streets, were overturned because of this riot. The powerful chi waves were like tornadoes. It completely engulfed the young lady who was standing there. Eldest young miss. Gu Yun's pupils constricted in shock as she stared intently at the surging whirlpool, her eyes burning with a raging fire. She clenched her fists tightly as she speedily dashed forward, wanting to dash into the whirlpool and bring eldest young miss back. At the same time, the two figures who were hiding in the dark swiftly flew over. When she saw the two of them, Gu Yun was only slightly stunned, as she didn't have any extra thoughts to ask why the two of them were here. The three of them speedily dashed into the airwave. They hadn't even taken a step. Suddenly, the three of them paused, as if someone had pressed the pause button. Not a single one of them moved. The three of them had the same expression, filled with shock and disbelief. In front of them, profound waves were surging. A figure that was like a raging flame was faintly discernible. Not long after, the figure was getting closer. The fiery red dress followed her footsteps, as if she was stepping on a fire lotus. The girl with a luxurious aura had an extremely faint, mocking smile on her face. It's eldest miss. Eldest miss was actually safe and sound under Princess Xiaoju's attack. What was going on? They were not the only ones who were shocked and astonished. The onlookers were all dumbfounded by the number 6. Eldest young miss. Gu Yun was the first to react as she swiftly rushed to Yi Qing Luo's side and pulled her to size her up. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo only had some minor abrasions on her body, she heaved a sigh of relief. Eldest young miss, you're too reckless. If Bone Lord were to find out about this, he would definitely punish this servant. Yi Qing Luo's breathing paused. Enduring the stifling feeling in her chest, she raised her long and narrow eyes and fixed her gaze in the direction that was enveloped by the profound wave. He seemed to have seen something. Her pink lips curled into a faint, cold arc as though filled with malice. Chapter 4263. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she held Gu Yun's hand. I said before, trust me. Her enchanting eyes seemed to sparkle with a dazzling radiance, as though it was filled with energy. Gu Yun pursed her lips tightly as her hand, which was holding the young lady's hand, unconsciously tightened. It showed her anxiety and uneasiness at this moment. Eldest young miss, enough is enough. The lady who was standing by the side stared at Yi Qing Luo with an ugly expression. That time was a fluke. That was because Princess Xiaoju saw that you were Sir Bone Lord's niece, so she showed mercy and escaped once. Do you really think that you are very powerful? Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she squinted her eyes, sizing up the lady in front of her. The lady raised her head arrogantly. You should not know our identities. He arranged to protect my secret guards in the dark. Yi Qing Luo directly interrupted the lady's words as she continued her sentence with a smile which didn't look like a smile. The lady was stunned as her brows knitted tightly. How did you know? Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. Do you think that everyone is like you, retard? You. The lady's face turned green as she raised her hand and pointed at Yi Qing Luo angrily. I am just reminding you not to cause trouble for others because of your own selfish desires. Pausing for a moment, she intentionally returned Yi Qing Luo's words back. Don't think that everyone is like you, too free to do anything. You have nothing to do and you are a waste. Why don't you obediently stay in the Gu residence and be your ornament? Why must you take up our time? The lady's heart was suppressing too much anger. At this moment, looking at the safe and sound Yi Qing Luo, she pretended to be unfathomable and finally exploded. Gu-san. Gu Yun's face darkened when she heard that as she shouted the lady's codename. The lady who was called Gu-san snorted coldly. You are like a dog, sticking to a waist. I don't have the time to serve her. Gu Yun opened her mouth as she wanted to say something, but she was held back by the young lady as she smiled and shook her head at her. Eldest young miss. Gu Yun's expression was complicated as she looked at Gu-san and then at Yi Qing Luo, feeling somewhat guilty for letting eldest young miss hear these words. Yi Qing Luo pulled Gu Yun behind her. His footsteps slightly moved, slowly walking towards Gu-san. The smile on his face grew wider as he approached. Gu-san's pupils constricted, and he subconsciously retreated 2 steps. What do you want to do? I'm just telling the truth. First, Yi Qing Luo raised a finger and gave a smile, which didn't look like a smile. I do feel that I'm very powerful. At least I still have a brain. Not waiting for Gu-san to scold him with a red face. Yi Qing Luo had already interrupted her as she raised her second finger. 2. What I want to do is my freedom. May I ask? This secret guard, what position are you using to restrict my freedom? Her lips curled into a sneer. Third, if you have any dissatisfaction with protecting me, you can directly reject the person who issued the order. If you don't have the guts, then shut your mouth. Gu-san was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He stared at Yi Qing Luo with an infuriated gaze. Fourth, the smile on Yi Qing Luo's face was suddenly tainted with some treachery. Gu-san still did not understand the meaning behind that smile. Pon! A crisp sound rang out. Goosen only felt a burst of fiery pain on his face, like a fire scorching her face. You dare to hit me? Goosen covered his face as he gritted his teeth and stared at Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 4264. As a secret guard of the Gu family, it is your duty to obey the orders of the Gu family. Yi Qing Luo shook the fourth finger. Guyan is just more loyal than you. If I hear you say anything bad about Guyan next time, it will not only be a slap on the face. She smiled nastily. Her eyes were filled with a treacherous arc. It made her look like an Azura from the Dark Knight, especially when that pair of smiling eyes fell on her, as if she was in an ice cellar. It was as if even his soul had been seen through by someone. Gusan's eyes turned red as his body trembled. She wanted to kill this slut. Gusan's anger burst out a strong, murderous intent. The burning pain on her face kept telling her she had been humiliated by a waste. She raised her hand. The profound waves surged as she was about to strike. Gu Yi, who was standing by the side, suddenly saw something. His expression changed as he quickly stretched out his hand to grab Gusan's arm. "Are you done messing around?" Gu Yi shouted. It made Gusan's entire body stiffen up. She felt even more wronged. Her eyes, filled with tears, looked at Gu Yi aggrievedly. Gu Yi was expressionless, his face solemn. Enough. Another shout rang out. Gusan bit his lower lip as he unwillingly shifted his gaze. Gu Yi glanced at Gusan, then expressionlessly cupped his hands towards Yi Qing Luo. Not appearing in time, we should be punished. Indeed should be punished. Yi Qing Luo bluntly said, "Let her come over," and apologized to Guyan. As for you, Yi Qing Luo sized up Gu Yi. As the leader of the secret guards, you don't have the ability to manage your own subordinates, which means you don't have the ability to take on this heavy responsibility. So, the responsibility of the leader of the secret guards will be handed over to Guyan. Based on what? Gusan was furious. Ask her to apologize to Guyan? Dream on. And vainly trying to usurp Gu Yi's position? Yi Qing Luo smiled indifferently. Based on the fact that I am the eldest miss of the Gu residence, and you are just a secret guard. Immediately, her smile became more radiant. Only this radiance added some viciousness. Not convinced? If not, then leave the Gu residence. Is it your goal? You bitch. Gusan's angry roar did not have time to finish. Gu Yi's face darkened as he forcefully pushed her head in the direction of Guyan. Then, he lowered his head and said word by word, "This subordinate will obey first Mrs. orders." After saying that, he untied a wooden token from his waist and handed it to Guyan. Guyan saw the wooden token, which represented the secret guard's captain, appearing right in front of her eyes as she hurriedly looked towards Yi Qing Luo. "Eldest young miss, you can't do this. How can I take on this heavy responsibility?" "You mean there's something wrong with my eyesight?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "This servant doesn't mean that. It's just that I told you to take it, so take it." Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered to listen to her rejection as she directly snatched the wooden token from Gu Yi's hands and stuffed it into Guyan's arms. Even Guyan was scared silly. Just like that, he had inexplicably become the leader of the Bone Mansion's Dark Knight. Looking at Gu Yi's gloomy face and Gusan's malevolent and distorted face, Yi Qing Luo rubbed her chin, expressing that she was extremely satisfied with this arrangement. Very good. On the first day of taking charge, she had successfully seized power. What a great start. Clap for herself. Chapter 4265. That calm and composed look, as though the position of the leader of the Dark Guards belonged to her. This made Gusan's expression contorted. This lady was just too arrogant. Relying on Bone Lord, she had nothing to fear. His heart was still feeling indignant. Beside him, his arm tightened. Gusan looked over and saw Gu Yi with a sunken face as he shot a glance at the other side. He indicated for her to look over. Gusan followed his gaze and looked over. Instantly, the malevolent expression froze on her face. A trace of astonishment surfaced on her face. the direction that Gu Yi was looking at. It was the direction where Princess Xiaozhu and Yi Qingluo had crossed hands earlier. The raging hurricane had gradually dissipated. It also allowed everyone to see clearly. A slender figure sprawled on the ground, not moving at all. That figure, wasn't it Princess Xiaozhu? This knowledge immediately set off 1,000 layers of huge waves. All of them looked at the figure sprawled on the ground in disbelief. How could this be possible? Gusen was the first to cry out in shock. This cry made the others regain their senses. That's right. How could this be possible? How could Princess Xiaozhu possibly lose to Bone Lord's niece? Bone Lord's niece's body obviously didn't have any profound energy fluctuations. Why was it that when the both of them crossed hands, the earth shook? Bone Lord's niece was safe and sound. Princess Xiaozhu instead. Lost. What on earth had happened? Something that they didn't know about? Could it be that Bone Lord thought of a way to hide his niece's profound grade in order to protect her? Actually, Bone Lord's niece was a hidden top exponent. In everyone's mind, there were already numerous guesses. Your Highness! The palace maids who followed Princess Xiaozhu then realized that this battle was their princess's loss. Yuing led the group of palace maids as they rushed towards Princess Xiaozhu. Yuing helped Princess Xiaozhu up, but saw that there wasn't any injury on Princess Xiaozhu. However, Princess Xiaozhu hung limply in Lin Mingya's arms, as if she had lost all her strength. Yu Ying's pupils contracted as she immediately held onto Princess Xiaozhu's wrist. After checking her pulse, Yu Ying's expression immediately sunk as she stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo's direction. Eldest young miss, what have you done to the princess? It was obvious that Princess Xiaozhu was not injured by anyone. Instead, he was poisoned. That woman had poisoned her royal highness. Despicable and shameless. Hand over the antidote. Hearing Yu Ying's stern shout and questioning, only then did the onlookers understand. As it turned out, this first young miss of the Gu residence had poisoned Princess Xiaozhu. She sure had guts. He actually dared to do such a risky thing, as expected of someone from the Bone Mansion. I'm the only one who thinks that. Eldest young mistress, being able to poison Princess Xiaozhu without anyone noticing and successfully escape unscathed from Princess Xiaozhu's attack. Is she very powerful? Among the onlookers, someone suddenly spoke up. At the very least, it's enough to prove first Mrs. Strength. As soon as these words were spoken, many people chimed in agreement. Yi Qingluo's brows rose as her gaze shot towards that onlooker who had just opened his mouth. That person didn't notice Yi Qingluo's gaze. After everyone agreed, that person took a look left and right and quietly left. That person? Whose person was he? What motive did he have to intentionally stir up the pace here? Although what that person said, we're all helping her to lead the onlookers. Chapter 4266. Yu Ying's expression turned gloomy as she listened to the surrounding crowd's flattery and echoing. She raised her eyes and gritted her teeth as she stared at Yi Qingluo. Eldest young miss, harming a relative of the royal family is a huge crime. If this matter reaches the emperor's ears, even if Bone Lord personally pleads for you, it wouldn't be that easy. If eldest young miss hands over the antidote now, princess will let bygones be bygones. I won't want to kill her. Princess Xiaozhu was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She wanted to open her mouth and point at Yi Qingluo to scold her, but she couldn't muster up any strength at all. Even when he spoke, his voice was very weak, as though the next moment she would stop breathing. Princess Xiaozhu was angry, frustrated, and embarrassed. In front of so many people, she, the dignified Princess Xiaozhu, was plotted against by a trash without any profound energy. If this news were to spread to other powerhouses, her reputation as a princess would probably be completely gone. The more she thought about it, the more her anger burned. She couldn't wait to burn Yi Qingluo into ashes. Your Highness. Yu Ying's eyes turned red. Her princess had never suffered such humiliation. Ying, who felt sorry for her princess, stared at Yi Qing Luo, eldest young miss, the main character who was threatened and intimidated time and time again. Her brows rose slightly as her long and narrow eyes curled into a coquettish arc. Her lips curled into a smirk, as though she was watching a good show. On the surface, he looked calm and at ease, as though he was completely at ease. Which part of her looked like she was being threatened or intimidated? This leisurely look, as though she was showing off, made Yu Ying's tightly clenched fist to the point of cracking. Now, you're the one begging me. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards with some evilness. This is your attitude of begging others. Yu Ying's pupils constricted as her face sunk. Eldest young miss, are you determined to blow this matter up? Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders disapprovingly. From the beginning till the end, don't you have any idea who is the one causing trouble, using the Heaven Realm's emperor to suppress her? Previously, when the king of the Earth Realm appeared, she wasn't afraid, all right. In the end, what do you want? Yu Ying asked patiently. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. You're the one who requested me. Do I need to tell you what to do? So insincere? Yu Ying begged my ass. She had never seen someone as shameless as Yi Qing Luo. Since you don't have any sincerity, then make way. Don't disturb my mood of shopping. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand. With a look of disgust, she lifted her feet and prepared to leave. How could Yu Ying let her leave so easily? Such a big thing had happened, and she still wanted to go shopping? How could this young girl be so strange? He absolutely could not be allowed to live. Yu Ying signaled with her eyes. Among the crowd, the royal guards who had been standing guard leaped down from the heads of the onlookers. All of them stood in front of Yi Qing Luo, blocking her path. Gu Yun immediately guarded Yi Qing Luo vigilantly. The expression on her face changed from the days when she received the wooden token to a stern look. I don't have any evil intentions in coming up with this plan. I only hope that eldest young miss will hand over the antidote. Yu Ying stared at Yi Qing Luo, warning her word by word. Yi Qing Luo snorted lightly. This formation doesn't seem to have no evil intentions. Chapter 4267. The girl's voice was light and sweet, with a hint of playfulness. However, Yu Ying didn't hear any playfulness in his words. She only heard a strong provocation and sarcasm. Princess Xia Zhu suddenly grabbed Yu Ying's arm with all her might. Her breathing was very heavy, and her voice was intermittent. Force her to hand over the antidote. She really couldn't stand the feeling of weakness. It was as if he had become a cripple. Since that slut refused to hand over the antidote, then he would use force. She wanted to see how much poison that slut had on her. Yes, Your Highness. Yu Ying obeyed Princess Xia Zhu's order. She glanced at the Imperial Guards and repeated Princess Xia Zhu's words. The Imperial Guard did not hesitate. When the command was heard, those royal guards who were blocking in front of Yi Qing Luo directly raised their hands and struck towards Yi Qing Luo's neck. Its speed was extremely fast, and its momentum was ferocious. Bang! Profound ripples lingered on Gu Yun's body. She pushed out a palm wind with both hands, sending the Imperial Guards who were surrounding her flying. The boundless, profound energy was like a stormy sea, rolling wave after wave. Yi Qing Luo, who was standing behind Gu Yun, was shocked by the vibration in the air. Gu Yun, she was really strong. It could be said that other than Mo Xian and the people behind Another Palace, he was the only one she had met who could be considered as a strong existence. The violent wind violently blew against the skin on her face. However, it did not cause any discomfort. She didn't know if it was because she still had the body's instincts, or because this body had already been cleansed and was no longer immortal. Or perhaps the barbaric Bloodbone King had done something to her when he sealed her power. When facing these powerful, profound waves and majestic auras, he did not feel any pressure at all. There was no tightness in his chest or the feeling of his internal organs being squeezed. Gu Yun's palm strike caused Yu Ying's expression to freeze. She stared at Gu Yun with a probing gaze. Ying lowered her eyes and looked at Princess Xiaozhu, who was being supported in her arms. She spoke again. A few people will trap Miss Yin. The target of the others is the first miss of the Gu residence. The formation of the Imperial Guards changed, and a few of them quickly surrounded Gu Yun. Following, there were the 3 royal guards, charging towards Yi Qing Luo. They were extremely fast, like a hot knife through butter. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly, but had no intention of avoiding him. In the blink of an eye, the 3 Imperial Guards had already reached out with their hands. At this moment, the calm-looking girl suddenly raised her head and smiled at the 3 of them in a sly manner. That smile could definitely be called treacherous. Her smile was beautiful. However, when they looked at it, they felt an inexplicable chill, as if something had drilled into their hearts. What was that? The 3 Imperial Guards were startled. Just as he was about to raise his hand and press on that strange feeling, suddenly, all 3 of them fell to the ground at the same time. This scene left the onlookers dumbfounded. What happened? Why did those 3 royal guards fell onto the ground before they could even touch Yi Qing Luo? Her symptoms seemed to be exactly the same as Princess Xiaozhu's. So to speak, this was the live version of how Yi Qing Luo dealt with Princess Xiaozhu. Previously, Princess Xiaozhu's profound wave was too strong, and the hurricane it created had obstructed everyone's vision. Everyone had yet to see clearly what happened after Princess Xiaozhu and Yi Qing Luo's exchange of blows, and it had already ended. This time, they were able to see everything clearly. Chapter 4268. Yi Qing Luo hadn't touched those 3 royal guards at all. How did the royal guards get poisoned? Facing the crowd's questions, the 3 royal guards were all in a daze. Uff. Princess Xiaozhu was infuriated by this scene as she grabbed Yu Ying's arm tightly. She wanted to scold Yi Qing Luo for being shameless, but she couldn't say a single word. Yu Ying patted Princess Xiaozhu's shoulder lightly as she comforted her gently. But when she raised her eyes and looked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction, her gaze was as though it was laced with poison. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence is really awe-inspiring. Awe-inspiring? Just putting you scums down, what awe-inspiring about that? There's no sense of accomplishment at all right? Yi Qing Luo spread her hands out as she turned one round on the spot. Her red dress fluttered like a butterfly's wings as it fluttered. The young lady was smiling. Why don't we try to see if you have more men, or I have more poison on me? Her words paused as she gave an evil smile. Or should I say, let's see if your princess can hold on till you snatch the antidote from me. This was a blatant provocation. Yu Ying's brows were covered in a haze as her gaze swept across. Very quickly, there were a few royal guards pressing towards Yi Qing Luo. The crowd's eyes widened as they stared fixedly at Yi Qing Luo. They wanted to see clearly how Yi Qing Luo made her move. But just as the few royal guards were closing in on Yi Qing Luo, which was the most crucial step which everyone was staring at, a tall figure descended from the sky as he landed in front of Yi Qing Luo and directly blocked those royal guards. That man raised his hand and waved his sleeves as a few fists were hammered down with a bam, bam, bam. The few royal guards were all sent flying. Following that man brushed his hair as he raised his head and gave a self-proclaimed suave smile as he turned back to look at Yi Qing Luo. This master is here. Eldest young miss, don't be afraid. Yi Qing Luo looked at the man who suddenly appeared. Such a Chinibu entrance, such a Chinibu script. Was there something wrong with him? What's there to be afraid of? Did she look like she was afraid? Second young master of the Ren family? Why is the second young master of the Ren family here? He's helping niece Bone Lord? What is the relationship between second young master Ren and Bone Lord's niece? Why would second young master Ren help her? I heard that. Princess Xiaozhu is in love with second young master Ren and has been chasing after him. Second young master Ren should be more familiar with Princess Xiaozhu. Why would he help Bone Lord's niece? The appearance of this person immediately caused the onlookers to boil with excitement. The second young master of the Ren family was extremely famous in the old city. It had both a beautiful name and a beautiful name. This reputation was because the Run clan's second young master was blessed by the heavens. He was born into one of the Heaven Realm's 4 great families, the Run clan, and was recognized as a cultivation genius since he was young. Others would need to cultivate for a month to complete this. He only needed 10 days to half a month to complete it. It could be said that the second young master of the Run family was the kind of person who walked ahead of ordinary people. This strength and talent led to his frivolous nature. He loved to eat, drink, and be merry, as well as to linger in the bushes of flowers. In any case, even if he were to play and wander around, he wouldn't be able to do so, and no one was able to chase up to his footsteps. It could be said that even if they knew that the second young master of the Run family was a hedonistic disciple, he was still the target of admiration of many young ladies. Chapter 4269. Hearing Run Jiaming's name. Princess Xiaozhu, who was extremely weak, struggled to raise her head. His gaze fell on Run Jiaming. She moved her lips weakly. Brother Ming. However, the man whom she missed dearly did not even look at her. His vision had always been on Yi Qing Luo's side. From Princess Xiaozhu's angle, she could clearly see that when Run Jiaming looked at Yi Qing Luo, his eyes were brimming with interest and the curvature on his lips. Big Brother Ming is very interested in that slut. Brother Ming had taken a fancy to that slut. The thought caused Princess Xiaozhu's expression to turn hideous. Facing Princess Xiaozhu's scorching and vengeful gaze, Yi Qing Luo expressed that her heart wasn't affected at all. She narrowed her eyes and looked lazy. She looked at Run Jiaming, who suddenly appeared and wanted to be a hero to save the damsel in distress. He didn't show any other emotions. Run Jiaming, who thought he was handsome and elegant, was speechless. A furious slam. Why wasn't this woman following the script? How is he going to pick up girls? Generally speaking, when a girl was saved by a hero in a time of crisis, shouldn't she be unable to repay him and could only devote herself to him? Can't eldest Miss give me a little bit of the reaction that a woman should have? However, Run Jiaming's inner roar didn't reach Yi Qing Luo's ears. Yi Qing Luo calmly retracted her vision, and without saying a single word, she directly lifted her leg and walked past Run Jiaming. Was he treating the second young master of the Run family as heir? AI, eldest young miss. Eldest young miss. Run Jiaming was also stunned by Yi Qing Luo's actions. He hurriedly moved his body and blocked in front of Yi Qing Luo. Eldest young miss, I've saved you. Don't you have anything to say to me? Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at the person who was blocking her. Save me? Are you sure it's to save me? There was a hint of mockery in her half-smiling eyes. Run Jiaming laughed out loud as he stared at Yi Qing Luo with an even more fervent gaze. Although this young master was indeed standing by the side and watching the show not too long ago. But after all, I was the one who personally beat these royal guards to the ground. Naturally, it can be said that I saved you. Run Jiaming was extremely thick-skinned. Facing Yi Qing Luo's ridicule, he totally didn't put it to heart. Yes, this Run Jiaming should have been watching the crowd from the beginning. From the direction where Run Jiaming appeared, Yi Qing Luo saw what happened earlier. Using the fact that she had poisoned Princess Xiaozhu, she had spurred the crowd's tempo and made everyone chime in. Plotting against Princess Xiaozhu successfully was also based on her own ability. She didn't expect that the person who set the pace was actually Run Jiaming's man. It was obvious that Run Jiaming had instructed that person to do so. Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand what motive Run Jiaming had. If you say that he is a hedonistic son of a rich family. However, his talent was outstanding, and he could beat you up to the heavens at any moment. You said that he was a powerful expert, right? He was also shameless, loitering in the bushes of flowers, eating, drinking, whoring, gambling, and anything. However, the good thing about Run Jiaming was that no matter what he wanted, he would definitely show it on his face. He would never hide it. For example, his ambition for the Wind Cloud list. For example, his interest in her. Ren Jiaming, who was being stared at by Yi Qing Luo, indeed didn't have any bashful expression. Chapter 4270. Fiancé. Ren family's second young master said, Bone Lord's niece is his fiancé? Did I hear wrongly? Fiancé. When did this happen? When did the Ren family and Gu residents form a marriage alliance? Such a huge matter, and it's not spread out? Ren Jiaming obviously did it on purpose. That sentence was spoken without the slightest bit of concealment. Instantly, it set off thousands of waves. Everyone was stunned by this news. Gu Yun's face flushed red from Ren Jiaming's shameless words. Master Ren, what rubbish are you sprouting? Our eldest miss, and you're not related at all. What motive do you have to slander our eldest miss's reputation? Ren Jiaming had called her fiancée in front of so many onlookers. Wasn't it to intentionally make everyone think that Gu Residence's eldest miss was his fiancée? This was simply trying to destroy eldest miss's innocence, borrowing the power of public opinion, forcing the Gu residents to have no choice but to marry eldest miss to the Ren family. My goal is naturally to make your young miss my fiancée. Ren Jiaming's reply was also very shameless as he grinned. That pair of sinister eyes clearly showed that he was determined to win. Towards Yi Qing Luo, he was determined to win. Pui, you're shameless. Gu Yun had never met such a shameless person as the hand which was pointing at Ren Jiaming started to tremble. Gu Yun's furious rebuke and Ren Jiaming's reply. This made the crowd start to discuss even more. Each and every one of them were pondering when the feelings between the two of them had started. It really made Yi Qing Luo and Ren Jiaming a couple. Fiancé. Princess Xiaoju's eyes widened when she heard these three words as her little hand grabbed Yu Ying's hand weakly. Her face was filled with hurt and disbelief. Big Brother Ming had actually personally admitted that that slut was his fiancée. Brother Ming obviously knew her feelings for him. Why did he still do this? Yu Ying felt the person in her arms, and that hand which was grabbing her kept trembling, grabbing her tightly for a moment and then loosening it weakly the next moment. Because of her tense emotions, her breathing gradually became weak from the urgency it had been before. Your Royal Highness, Princess. Yu Ying held Princess Xiaoju tightly in a panic and anxiously called out to her. However, Princess Xiaoju's face was pale. Her twisted face was filled with disbelief and hatred as the light slowly faded away. Yu Ying cried out in alarm. This also interrupted the discussion of the crowd, and they all looked over in unison. Then he discovered Princess Xiaoju looked as if she couldn't breathe. Her eyes had already turned white, and she was about to die any moment. Young miss. Gu Yun's face turned pale when she saw this. If the princess died in the hands of the eldest miss, this matter might be a little troublesome. Especially when Bone Lord was not in the residence before the excellence list was released. If something were to happen, would she really be able to protect eldest miss? Gu Yun tightly pursed her lips, her eyes filled with anxiety and worry. Yi Qing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes, slightly curving into an extremely shallow arc, unable to tell what emotion she was feeling. She just stared at Princess Xiaoju and raised her eyebrows. However, he did not calmly watch Princess Xiaoju die as Gu Yun expected. On the contrary, she took out a medicine bottle and threw it beside Yu Ying's feet. The medicine bottle rolled a few rounds and knocked onto Yu Ying's shoes. Chapter 4271. Antidote. Yi Qing Luo spread out her hands with an indifferent look. It's up to you to believe it or not. Antidote? Yu Ying's brows twitched as she looked suspiciously at the medicine bottle by her feet. She didn't think that eldest young miss of the Gu residence would be so kind-hearted, but as Princess Xiaoju's breathing became weaker and weaker, it had reached the stage where she could only exhale but not inhale. Yu Ying's hesitant heart started to waver again. She stared at the unremarkable medicine bottle by her feet. Finally, She gritted her teeth and picked up the medicine bottle. When she raised her eyes, she seemed to be able to see the cold smile hanging on the young lady's lips, as though she had long expected that she would do so. Ewing pursed her lips tightly as her lips turned white from the force. She suppressed the urge to throw the medicine bottle away. Whether this was the antidote or not, she had to give it to Princess Xiaozhu to try. Compared to Princess Xiaozhu's current condition, there was no worse result than now. If this antidote was fake, eldest young miss of the Gu residence would definitely pay the price for this. Ewing gritted her teeth as she opened the medicine bottle. The medicine bottle was filled with liquid. She shook it and heard the sound of water. An extremely unpleasant smell filled their nostrils. Yu Ying's face instantly turned black. What kind of smell was this? She couldn't use words to describe it. It was like all kinds of excrement mixed together, or like all kinds of rotting corpses mixed together. This thing, how could it possibly enter her stomach? Was eldest young miss of the Gu residence intentionally teasing her? Yu Ying's hand, which was holding the medicine bottle, was about to explode. Her venomous gaze was like a sharp blade as it pierced towards Yi Qing Luo. TSK, TSK. I only have this bottle of antidote. If you crush it, whatever happens to your princess, it's none of my business. The young lady's teasing voice rang at this moment. Her eyes curved as her eyes were filled with craftiness. Clearly, he was trying to shirk the responsibility of poisoning Princess Xiaozhu from his words. After all, she had already handed over the antidote. Ewing gritted her teeth as she said word by word. Eldest young miss, are you sure this is the antidote? These words were almost squeezed out from the gaps of her teeth. Yi Qing Luo looked at her smilingly. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Ewing stared at her for a few breaths. Finally, he took a deep breath and poured the indescribable liquid in the bottle into Princess Xiaozhu's mouth. The air was filled with the smell of feces and rotting corpses. Everyone looked at the food that Yu Ying fed into Princess Xiaozhu's mouth, and their expressions became extremely complicated. He really couldn't imagine what the princess had drunk. This taste was too indescribable. Cough, cough, cough. Suddenly, Princess Xiaozhu, who was on her last breath, coughed violently. The liquid in his mouth was also choked out, following her mouth and face sliding down. The liquid was dark green and extremely thick. When it flowed out of Princess Xiaozhu's mouth, it almost stained half of her face. What did you feed this princess? What is this smell? Princess Xiaozhu let out a shrill roar. She wiped her mouth forcefully. He covered his nose in disgust. Just what was that smell? Why did her mouth feel like it was stuffed with a few balls of feces? Princess, your highness? Yu Ying heard her princess's voice, which had regained its vitality, and was so agitated that she was about to cry. Chapter 4272. Yu Ying hesitated for a moment before replying. It's the antidote. Antidote? Princess Xiaozhu's expression congealed as she suddenly thought of something. Her expression darkened as she looked at Yi Qing Luo. It's you, right? What did you feed this princess? Yi Qing Luo smiled. I'm such a beautiful and pure lady, why would I lie? Look, are you detoxified now? Princess Xiaozhu choked, and her face darkened. She was indeed detoxified. That weak and powerless feeling from before, as if he had lost all his strength, had gradually disappeared. She clenched her fists. The fist vibrated again. His strength had been restored. This meant that Yi Qing Luo indeed didn't lie to her. But the smell of this antidote made her unable to not suspect if Yi Qing Luo had done it on purpose. Yi Qing Luo. Princess Xiaozhu gritted her teeth as she spat out Yi Qing Luo's name. He clenched his fists. Profound waves fluctuated. His eyes were filled with a whirlpool storm, as though it was going to swallow Yi Qing Luo whole. In this surging atmosphere, Ren Jiaming stood in the middle of the two women's gazes. It blocked their line of sight. He first looked at Princess Xiaozhu and said, Your Highness, since eldest young mistress has given you the antidote and you are safe and sound, please let this matter go for my sake. Immediately following that, He looked at Yi Qing Luo smilingly with a scorching gaze. Eldest young miss, don't be afraid. Even if I have to sacrifice the entire family, I will definitely protect you. Saying that, he rubbed his hands as he leaned towards Yi Qing Luo. Brother Ming. These two obviously different attitudes caused Princess Xiaoju's expression to turn even uglier. She stomped her feet fiercely, looking at Ren Jiaming's fawning look towards Yi Qing Luo, her face flushed red with anger. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream. Ren Jiaming had yet to get close to Yi Qing Luo. A streak of fiery red flashed before his eyes. He felt a sharp pain in his head. It was the battle pet that could talk. Everyone's gaze immediately fell on Ren Jiaming's head, the red bird that was using its sharp beak to poke Ren Jiaming's head. Like a chicken pecking at rice, the bird kept poking at it. Ren Jiaming screamed in pain. You pervert! How dare you covet my people? I'll peck you to death. Peck you to death. I also want to peck your eyes. Ren Jiaming was infuriated. He raised his hand and grabbed the top of his head. The palm wind carried a sharp and profound light. He directly grabbed Qi Yan's wings. Qi Yan struggled a few times, but was unable to break free. A few cries came out of its mouth. Then, she immediately used her mouth to kiss Ren Jiaming's hand. Qi Yan. Yi Qing Luo saw Qi Yan being grabbed by Ren Jiaming and stretched out her hand to snatch it. Ren Jiaming moved sideways, avoiding Yi Qing Luo's outstretched hand, holding Qi Yan's two little wings, shaking it. This kind of disobedient war pet. What's the use of it? I will give you a better battle pet some other day. His words were filled with killing intent. Killing intent towards Qi Yan. Qi Yan's mouth cried a few more times. Its red eyes widened, full of stubbornness, and kept struggling. Ren Jiaming's gaze fell on Qi Yan's face, snorted disdainfully. So, it's a useless war pet. It doesn't even have bird claws and can't fight. Other than being able to talk, I'm afraid it's just a useless broken bird. His 5 fingers suddenly tightened. He squeezed Qi Yan tightly in his palm. Chapter 4273. Clang. Qi Yan's wings fluttered even more violently. His little head swayed wildly, trying to grab Ren Jiaming's hand. But, as the murderous intent in Ren Jiaming's eyes intensified, the strength of Qi Yan's fluttering also weakened. It was just a few breaths' time. Yi Qing Luo saw Ren Jiaming's 5 fingers tightening. Her eyes shot out a piercingly cold glint. Her body knocked away Gu Yun, who was blocking in front of her. She pounced towards Ren Jiaming. When the young lady pounced over, she brought along a unique fragrance of a young lady, faintly smelling a faint medicinal fragrance. Ren Jiaming's mind swayed. He subconsciously stretched out his hand, trying to catch the young lady who pounced over. The other hand, which was clasping Qi Yan's body, also loosened. Qi Yan took the opportunity to break free from Ren Jiaming's restraint. At the same time, Ren Jiaming's hand, which was stretched out towards Yi Qing Luo, suddenly heard a kacha sound. Ren Jiaming gave a muffled groan. An intense pain from the wrist directly spread to the whole body. Between the breath, a fragrant breeze brushed past. Immediately, he saw that red-robed young lady, hugging that struggling bird in her arms. This series of actions, it was just a blink of an eye. Qi Yan, how are you? Yi Qing Luo lowered her head, looking at Qi Yan in her arms. Who am I? How could I possibly be in trouble? Qi Yan's voice was obviously strained, but his mouth still had to put up a brave front. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips, slender as jade fingers, gently stroked Qi Yan's furry little head. Between her slightly drooping brows, a sinister cold arc slowly swept past. She suppressed her voice, long and narrow eyes raised, like a blooming poppy, coquettish, and exuding a suffocating charm. Qi Yan, want revenge? The young lady's voice, deep and bewitching, clear and melodious, but it made the surrounding air seem to condense a few degrees. Qi Yan's eyes lit up, yes. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened. Her peripheral vision faintly glanced at Ren Jiaming's direction. All right. Brother Ming. Princess Xiaozhu, who had recovered her strength, suddenly rushed over and hugged Ren Jiaming's arm. Her worried voice contained a tinge of sobbing. What happened to your hand? Does it hurt? Ren Jiaming frowned, but he did not push Princess Xiaozhu away. He silently withdrew the hand that Princess Xiaozhu was hugging and placed it on his other arm, which was still in pain. With a kacha sound, the bones were set. Ren Jiaming's face turned pale, but he didn't show any other emotions. After setting the bones, he shook his hand, and his gaze was glued to Yi Qing Luo. Eldest young miss is really ruthless. If anything happens to my hand, eldest young miss will have to take responsibility. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she hugged Qi Yin and squinted at Ren Jiaming. Her rosy lips curled up into a mysterious smile. Ruthless? There are even fiercer ones. Do you want to try? The girl's light voice carried a trace of coldness. As her words fell, Yi Zichen's expression changed. There was even a gust of cold wind blowing around them. The girl's waterfall-like black hair danced in the wind. Her fiery red dress was also burning like a raging flame. It further accentuated the young girl's devastatingly beautiful face, adding a bit of unattainable holiness. Ren Jiaming was almost mesmerized by her. His eyes were filled with thick lust. As long as it's bestowed by eldest young miss, this young master is willing to die of pain. This kind of sweet words, Ren Jiaming could say it casually. That gaze, that expression, that tone. He was clearly a lecherous, hedonistic son of a rich family. Chapter 4274. Brother Ming. Don't. Princess Xiaozhu didn't give up as she stretched out her arms to hug Ren Jiaming. Before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo's voice. Really? How can I believe Mr. Ren's words? Ren Jiaming's eyes lit up as he strode towards Yi Qing Luo. How would eldest young miss believe me? Princess Xiaozhu threw herself into his arms. Coincidentally, she missed her target. She staggered a few steps, and if it wasn't for Yu Ying who supported her in time, she would have fallen onto the ground. However, Ren Jiaming seemed as though he didn't notice what was happening behind him. In his eyes, he could only see Yi Qing Luo alone. Brother Ming. Princess Xiaozhu bit her lips in grievance, not allowing her tears to flow down. At this moment, Ren Jiaming's eyes were indeed only filled with Yi Qing Luo alone. When he reached Yi Qing Luo, his shoulders paused as he looked at her with a fiery gaze. Eldest young miss. The smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips turned a little strange. But Ren Jiaming, who was mesmerized by her beauty, didn't see it. Just as he was about to stretch out his hand to hug Yi Qing Luo, suddenly his face turned pale. His forehead was covered with beads of sweat. His body twitched as he curled up into a ball and fell onto the ground. Ren Jiaming groaned in pain. His body felt as though there were numerous sharp needles piercing into his internal organs and limbs. Just a slight movement, like a sharp blade, it cut a huge wound in his body. In fact, he could even feel the viscous liquid surging within his body. Pain, heart-wrenching pain. The pain was unbearable. Ren Jiaming had never suffered such torment since he was born. He fell onto the ground, twitching. Brother Ming. When Princess Xiaozhu heard Ren Jiaming falling onto the ground, she couldn't care less about the anger in her heart as she screamed and dashed towards Ren Jiaming. Ren Jiaming fell, causing the surrounding crowd to fall into a state of panic. Brother Ming, Brother Ming. Princess Xiaozhu had just stretched out her hand to touch Ren Jiaming's face when her wrist was gripped tightly by force. The strong force almost broke Princess Xiaozhu's wrist. When Yu Ying saw Princess Xiaozhu's red hands, she immediately wanted to help. However, Princess Xiaozhu stopped him. This was the first time Brother Ming had taken the initiative to hold her hand. She didn't want to lose the chance to be intimate with Big Brother Ming, just like that. Ren Jiaming. Due to the intense pain all over his body, he had long since lost his rationality. At this moment, he grabbed Princess Xiaozhu's wrist tightly because he wanted to release the pain in his body. First, miss, what have you done to Mr. Ren? Ying raised her head and stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo hugged Qi Yin as she stood there quietly, facing Yu Ying's question. Her lips curled into a cold smile. Didn't he say that he was willing? Then let me see how long his willingness can last. You bitch. Brother Ming would never be willing to be with you. Hand over the antidote. Hand it over. Princess Xiazhu roared hysterically. Yiqing Luo smiled as her brows were filled with calmness. Really? Then why don't you ask him if he is willing to bear this kind of pain? Ren Jiaming, who was in so much pain that he lost his rationality, didn't know why, but he heard Yiqing Luo's words. He gripped Princess Xiazhu's wrist tightly. Chapter 4275. Yes, this young master for eldest young miss is willing. When he spat out the last 4 words, Ren Jiaming was in so much pain that his entire body was twitching. Princess Xiazhu only felt that her heart was pierced by a sharp knife, dripping with fresh blood. The pain was unbearable. She stared at the man who was in so much pain that his tears couldn't stop falling. It was painful. Heartache. Why? She loved Brother Ming so much. But he didn't even give her a glance. Your Highness. Ying held onto Princess Xiazhu's shoulder with heartache as she comforted her softly. This is young Master Ren's own choice. Your Highness, let's go back to the palace. Stay here any longer. It would only hurt Princess's heart. This was the first time Ying saw Ren Jiaming being so persistent toward a lady. No, this princess is not going back. Princess Xiazhu bit her lips so hard that her lips started to bleed. Her eyes were red as she stared at Ren Jiaming in a daze. This princess wants to accompany Brother Ming. He will know that only this princess loves him the most. Heh. A clear sneer entered their ears. Xiazhu stared with her scarlet eyes as she looked towards the direction of the voice. When she saw the face of the sneer clearly, Xiazhu's face instantly darkened. What are you laughing at? Yiqing Luo didn't answer her, only giving an ambiguous smile. From Xiazhu's angle, she could see clearly that the young lady's pair of icy cold eyes was filled with a trace of coldness without any warmth. Her spine suddenly felt a chill, as if there was an icy cold snake winding around her. Immediately after, she saw Yiqing Luo slowly opening her arms. That blazing bird in her arms slowly fluttered its wings, circling around Yiqing Luo for 1 round. Go Qian, peck his eyes out. The young lady's smile was sweet, but the words that came out from her mouth made one's heart turn cold. Qian raised its little head as it cried out. Its little body was like a fireball as it charged towards Ren Jiaming. How dare you? Xiazhu immediately pounced forward, blocking in front of Ren Jiaming. Qian sneered as it fluttered its wings, causing a gust of wind, blowing directly towards Xiazhu's face. Instantly, that indescribable smell which was fed into Xiazhu's mouth instantly spread out. Scarlet Flame's small body suddenly drilled. His sharp beak was aimed accurately at Ren Jiaming's eyes. Wait! Ying suddenly cried out anxiously. She immediately supported her princess and raised her head to look at Yiqing Luo, eldest young miss. Today's matter is all because of the personal enmity between Her Majesty and you, and has nothing to do with Mr. Ren. If we want to settle it, we should settle it in the most reliable and fair way. This shout was loud and clear. This made Qi Yin stop his movements. It raised its head and looked at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as a glint flashed past her eyes. Personal enmity? I have just arrived at the Heaven Realm. Do I know her? What personal grudge? Yu Ying's complexion sank, and her lips squirmed, but she couldn't utter a single word for a long time. On the other hand, Princess Xiazhu straightened her back after hearing Yu Ying's words and looked at Yiqing Luo fearlessly. It's this princess who deliberately found trouble with you. It's this princess who is enmity with you. Although today's matter was provoked by this princess, but There must be a solution to the matter of you poisoning this princess and the second young master of the Ren family. Chapter 4276. Princess Yaju and Yu Ying exchanged glances and hurriedly continued. You have Bone Lord's protection, so I can't kill you. Then I can only choose a compromise. She paused as her gaze gradually turned ruthless. Let's have a fair competition that won't hurt ourselves. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as a glint flashed past. She had roughly guessed their plan. The next moment, Princess Xia Zhu's gaze fell onto Qiyan. Her gaze turned cold as she pointed at Qiyan. Let's use both our battle pets to battle. The moment she said that, it made the surrounding crowd drew in a cold breath. Princess Xia Zhu really dares to say that. That red bird, although it can speak, but its battle power is too weak. It doesn't have any battle ability at all. Its claws seem to be damaged. How can a battle pet with no battle ability possibly fight against Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet? Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet. I've heard that when Princess Xia Zhu was 13 years old, the Emperor gathered hundreds of elite cultivators to head to Heavenly Beast Mountain to capture a god-grade magical beast. Its battle power is extremely ferocious. Isn't Princess Xia Zhu bullying others? Previously, when Princess Xia Zhu saw that eldest Miss Gu's battle pet could speak, she wanted to take it by force. Now, when she saw that eldest Miss Gu's battle pet was a battle pet without any battle power, she thought of this idea. Wasn't this obviously digging a pit for Yiqing Luo? Because, based on their identities, it was destined that this battle had to be fought. If Yiqing Luo rejected, that was to reject Princess Xia Zhu's request for peace, which meant to go against the royal family till the end. Because the excuse that Princess Xia Zhu used was, because of their identities, only two battle pets could ensure that both parties wouldn't get hurt, and at the same time give an explanation. If Yiqing Luo accepted, what a joke. A battle pet without any battle power. How could it go against a god-grade magical beast? Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet raised its claws, and that bird would become a meat patty, all right. Moreover, if she lost, she would lose the Gu residence's reputation. Anyway, no matter what Yiqing Luo chose, it wouldn't benefit her at all. Princess Xia Zhu, you're going too far. Gu Yin pursed her lips and looked displeased. Princess Xia Zhu sneered and looked down at the man who was twitching in pain. Going too far? Isn't eldest Miss going too far? He poisoned her and forced her to consume the antidote with that smell. Right now, she could feel that her body was covered with the smell of decay. And elder Brother Ming, I don't know what kind of poison that bitch gave Brother Ming to cause him to be in so much pain. Since that bitch used such a despicable method and was so overbearing, then don't blame me for using underhanded means to protect Brother Ming. Apparently, Princess Xia Zhu had long forgotten that right from the start, she was the one who stirred up trouble, and it was her who had the murderous intent towards Yiqing Luo, which led to Yiqing Luo's retaliation. Lady Gu Yin was worried. Her battle pet is a divine-level combat bear beast. She can't fight. If they fought, it was to push Qi Yin to the road of death. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly, and her gaze fell on Qi Yin. Her charming eyes were filled with a serene light. She couldn't tell her current emotions. Qi Yin's ability was obviously sealed by the barbaric Bloodbone King. The current Qi Yin was just an ordinary pet. Chapter 4277. But, based on Qi Yin's character, it could not fight. As expected, the next moment, Qi Yin, which was hovering above Run, jamming, flew back to Yiqing Luo's side. I'll fight. When Qi Yin said these two words, its red eyes shone with a resolute light. It was one of the four sacred beasts, Vermilion Bird. There were even people who bullied it. How could it admit defeat? Yiqing Luo didn't reveal a surprised expression, as her expression was very calm. Are you sure? Sure. Qi Yin raised its long neck. You're the person I'm protecting. If they want to bully you, they have to see if I agree or not. Little Chi Yan's words were extremely arrogant. Hearing it saying, "You're the person I'm protecting," Yi Qing Luo's brows softened. She faced Chi Yin and slowly raised her hand. Chi Yin fluttered its wings as its little body fell into her palm. The young lady's slender fingers gently caressed Chi Yan's head. Little by little, the tip of his finger gently brushed her forehead. Chi Yin squinted its red eyes comfortably. It felt that along with the young lady's caressing action, its body seemed to be wrapped by a warm current, which was very comfortable. It hadn't had the time to think carefully. Yi Qing Luo's clear voice rang softly. "If you want to fight, then go ahead and fight. I'll bear all the consequences." Her voice was clear and melodious, but it inexplicably gave it a huge confidence. Chi Yan's eyes seemed to be releasing a raging flame, jumping with joy like a fire spirit. "Eldest Miss." Gu Yun's expression tightened when she heard Yi Qing Luo's words and immediately cried out, "You can't fight. You really can't fight." She really couldn't understand. Eldest Miss was obviously clear. Chi Yan's claws were not only corroded. It had no fighting ability at all. Bone Lord placed Chi Yin by Eldest Miss's side, just to let Chi Yin chat with Eldest Miss to relieve her boredom. How could a small Chi Yin be a match for a battle-type god-grade magical beast? It wasn't that Gu Yun was boosting other people's morale and diminishing her own, but the truth was as such. She clutched her sleeves tightly and continued anxiously. "Eldest Miss, this servant has already sent a message to the Gu residents. Gu Jun will definitely think of a way to protect Eldest Mississippi. Eldest Miss doesn't need to accept Princess Xiaoju's challenge." "Why not?" Chi Yin glared at Gu Yun. "I could protect my own people. Are you looking down on me?" As it spoke, it fluttered its wings excitedly. He even shook his head excitedly. Then, without waiting for Gu Yun to speak, with a whooshing sound, it flew into the sky. Then, it spun in the air like a ball of raging fire and stopped in front of Princess Xiaoju. "Come, call out that useless battle pet of yours." Qian's clamor was very arrogant. The way it flapped its little wings in midair looked comical and ridiculous. Princess Xiaoju's face was livid. She stared at the little thing that was clamoring in front of her and curled her lips coldly. "You overestimate yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, a tyrannical aura burst forth from her body. Endless dark force shot into the sky. Bang! There was a deafening explosion. Everyone felt the ground shaking for a moment. Immediately following that, their eyes were covered by a black shadow, only to see by Princess Xiaoju's side. A huge object, which was as tall as a house, appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Its huge body occupied more than half of the space. Chapter 4278. The huge beast's brown fur was like an indestructible armor, firmly protecting its huge body. That was a bear, a huge bear beast. The moment it appeared, it roared. Roar, 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 roar. While roaring, those two thick claws were raised up high. The ground cracked and shook incessantly. Princess Xiaoju's Xiongbatian has appeared. The crowd looked at the bear beast in astonishment. Their eyes were filled with shock and amazement. This was a god-grade magical beast, a battle-type bear beast. One strike was equivalent to 10 sage mystic to god mystic realm cultivators. They had heard of it before. Someone had attempted to kidnap the emperor's most beloved Princess Xiaoju and sent out 10 god mystic realm assassins. Among them, there was one whose profound grade had already reached the god mystic realm, peak of 8th grade. But he was still smashed in a meat paste by this battle-type bear beast, named Xiongbatian. It showed how terrifying this battle pet was. The talismans were all summoned. Princess Xiaoju was full of confidence as she arrogantly raised her chin, putting on a superior expression as she looked at Yi Qing Luo, eldest young miss of the Gu residence. This princess is magnanimous and can give you a chance to admit defeat. As long as you hand over Brother Ming's antidote and sincerely apologize to this princess will be merciful and let you off. The current situation. The battle between the battle pet and the battle pet. Yiqing Luo could not interfere, nor could she secretly poison it. Yiqing Luo had no chance of winning at all. That useless bird, which could speak human language, would definitely die. Thinking of this, the expression on Princess Xiaoju's face became more and more complacent. This beast will give you a chance to admit defeat. Kneel down and sincerely apologize to this beast. This beast will be merciful and forgive you too, blind master and servant. In terms of mouth, other than Yiqing Luo, Qi Yin didn't lose to anyone else. In front of one of the 4 sacred beasts, Vermilion Bird Sacred Beast, to use a small god-grade magical beast to act cool? What a big face. Even if its power was damaged and its beast energy was sealed. But did it really think that Vermilion Bird Sacred Beast had an undeserved reputation? Xiaoju, who was choked by a bird's low laughter, her face instantly turned gloomy as her venomous gaze fiercely cut Qi Yin. This useless bird was as disgusting as its master. When Xiong Batian subdued it, then she would pull out its tongue. Let's see how arrogant it was. Xiaoju and Yuing supported Run, jamming and retreated behind Xiong Batian. Then he ordered, Xiong Batian, kill it. Roar. Xiong Batian let out a roar as he waved his thick bear paws. It was a huge, battle-type bear beast. One was a useless bird beast that was the size of 2 palms and did not have sharp claws. There was no chance. Immediately, someone laughed out, Ling Bird. Ling Beast Xiong King, as long as Xiong Batian slaps down, do you think that bird can survive? The disparity in strength is too great. I really don't know what the young miss of the Gu residence is thinking. Why must she send her little pet to its death? He's not willing to apologize, nor is he willing to let the matter rest. He can only push his pet out to die. I feel sorry for that bird. Even if it's a useless bird, it's still a rare breed which can speak human language. It's better to keep it by her side and chat with her to relieve her boredom. Her master didn't express anything. What's the use of feeling heartache? Chapter 4279. Towards the surrounding people's gazes and various speculations. Yiqing Luo didn't have any change in her emotions. Her expression was calm, and there wasn't much change in her eyes. She didn't look at anyone else. Just like that, she looked at Qi Yin without blinking. Only Gu Yun, who was closest to Yiqing Luo, could tell. The young lady's expression was calm, but in the depths of her charming eyes that gazed deeply at Qi Yin, she hid her concern for Qi Yin. And the young lady's fists were clenched tightly under her sleeves. How could she not care about Qi Yin? She cared more than anyone else. The pain she was suffering right now was deeper than anyone else. Looking at Yiqing Luo in this state, Gu Yun's heart inexplicably surged with a feeling of heartache. Inexplicably, she wanted to believe that the young lady had her reasons for doing this. She would absolutely not allow Qi Yin to get hurt. Bam! Just at this moment, suddenly, a thunderous explosion erupted in front of them. The profound wave spread out at this moment. They were like turbulent waves, surging layer upon layer. The surroundings instantly exploded, pieces of shrapnel flying in all directions. Dust and profound wave curled up in spirals. Everyone could only vaguely see that enormous Xiong Batian waving its arms. A strange roar was coming out from its mouth. Everyone's ears were buzzing from this roar. Someone clicked his tongue. Look, when a god-grade magical beast unleashes its might, it's really extraordinary. No wonder it's Princess Xiaoju to be able to own such a powerful god-grade magical beast. That useless bird is going to suffer. Wouldn't it be in trouble if it met that kind of master? Everyone looked at that awe-inspiring Xiong Batian enviously, as their mouths were also praising Xiong Batian. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "No, no, quickly look over there." This tone seemed as though he had seen something unbelievable, as his voice was trembling from a shock. Everyone looked towards the direction of the voice. Instantly, shock, astonishment, disbelief appeared on everyone's faces. The dust and profound wave was blown away by the strong wind. revealing the indistinct figure of a huge bear beast. But what made everyone stunned was what they saw just now was Xiong Batian roaring and waving his arms. It was not Xiong Batian who was displaying his beast might. Instead, waving its thick bare paws, it scratched the bird on top of its head that looked like a ball of fire. Yes, scratching. It was scratching and slapping wildly. The roar coming from his mouth was a warning roar. The bird that was looked down upon by everyone and had no combat power at all flapped its wings and dodged Xiong Batian's paw again and again. Moreover, it was done in the most cunning way possible. Her posture was very elegant. It was as if he was strolling in the air, relaxed and leisurely. This is that useless bird? Play with him? Xiong Batian couldn't catch a useless bird? This was what everyone was thinking. In their imagination, Xiong Batian should have directly slapped that useless bird into meat paste. Or he could turn the useless bird into a new toy. This was completely different from what they had imagined. There was such a huge disparity in strength. The result was actually unexpected. Obviously, Xiong Batian also noticed this. It roared more and more fiercely. Chapter 4280. As a beast, he had a natural sense of danger. Xiong Batian could feel an extremely strong sense of danger from the other party's small body. If the other party didn't die, it would be the one to die. It couldn't tell where its perception came from. It only knew that when it looked into the bird's eyes. Every strand of hair on its body stood up subconsciously. Xiong Batian's beast eyes became more and more ruthless. The roar in his throat became more and more ferocious. You ugly monster, you're so ugly, and you still have the nerve to be a human's war pet. Qian flapped its wings and shouted. Xiong Batian growled, raised his feet, and stomped hard on the ground. His huge body soared into the air. It was like a towering mountain crashing straight towards Qian. So what if it can fly? Break its wings and see how it can fly. The anger in Xiong Batian's chest had already boiled to the extreme. When a thick bare paw slapped down on Qian, it gathered a brown beast power. The beast light twisted out crazily. It turned into a sharp blade with a piercingly cold glint. The majestic pressure of the beast power condensed the surrounding air into ice. Xiong Batian, who soared into the air, used his body size to occupy almost the entire air. Qian jumped high up in the air, and the majestic pressure of the beast power poured down. When she flapped her wings, it was as if there was something heavy pressing down on her wings. It was extremely difficult to stir it up. This greatly reduced Qian's flexibility. From the beginning, Qian used its nimble body and small and exquisite figure to deliberately confuse Xiong Batian's line of sight, while avoiding Xiong Batian's attack. At the same time, he quickly used his sharp beak to poke Xiong Batian's weakest point, for example, eyes, and then use it to arouse its anger. Once Xiong Batian lost his mind, it had a chance to take advantage of it. But now, Xiong Batian used his majestic beast power to directly seal its actions. At the same time, Xiong Batian growled. The thick bare paws and sharp claws shone with a cold light. It suddenly melted into Qian's body. The energy of the brown beast power cut through the sky. Qian's crimson eyes flashed. It flapped its wings fiercely. The heavy pressure made it extremely difficult for it to breathe. This time, that bird is dead for sure. The previous useless bird was a fluke. How can a battle pet that has no beast aura or combat abilities withstand the pressure of a beast at the divinity level? Some people marveled at Xiong Batian's bestial might. There were also some who took advantage of the situation and continued to smear Yiqing Luo's name. Like master, like war pet. You've already lost to me, yet you're still so arrogant. Without any strength, you only know how to brag with your mouth. A sentence of ridicule, and those voices of discussion came into the ears of Qian. At the bottom of Qian's heart, he felt inexplicably irritated. The heavy pressure on its body made it even more irritated. Bang! The bear paw landed. The sound of the explosion was like a clap of thunder. At the same time, The ground began to spread out in all directions like a dense spiderweb. The speed at which it flapped its wings became faster and faster. When the bear paw fell, it flew out of the attack range of the bear paw. However, the majestic and dignified beast power shockwave sent Qi Yin flying. Qi Yin somersaulted several times in midair. After crashing into a huge ancient tree, it followed the ancient tree and rolled to the ground. Qi Yin. Chapter 4281. Yi Qing Luo's body suddenly stiffened. She took a step forward. Her eyes stared at Qi Yin, but that little thing that fell to the ground. The pair of wings flapped again, turned into a stream of light, rushing towards the sky. Qi Yin's eyes were burning with a coquettish fire. Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and suppressed the worry in her heart. She couldn't move, nor could she show any emotion. She couldn't affect Qi Yin, and she couldn't give others any room to think. This was a battle that belonged to Qi Yin. It had its own self-esteem and pride as one of the four sacred beasts. To take on this battle, it had to rely on itself to fight on. And only in this way, if Qi Yin could hold on, perhaps it could turn the situation around. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. The hands under the sleeves clenched tighter. When the scarlet flames spun in the air, shaking its wings, its red eyes looked coldly at Xiong Batian. Try to use beast power to suppress your master bird? Do you really think your master bird has an undeserved reputation? Yi Qing Luo, did it really think of itself as a bird? Had it forgotten its distinguished vermilion bird identity? As the arrogant words fell, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Qi Yan's figure suddenly darted. Its shadow flashed. Qi Yin actually appeared on Xiong Beishan's nose in the blink of an eye. Its sharp beak mercilessly pecked into Xiong Beishan's eyes. The giant Xiong Batian, and a palm-sized bird. Plus, Xiong Batian didn't expect that the useless bird that was suppressed by its beast power would be so fast. This poke was very easy. Roar! Xiong Batian roared in pain, raised its paw, and pressed its eyes. Its body was also very agile as it leaped backwards. Bam! The huge body fell heavily on the ground. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. The cracks in the ground cracked and collapsed. Xiong Batian covered its eyes, howling miserably. Qi Yin flapped its wings, not giving Xiong Batian a chance to breathe. Its figure was like a raging flame, charging straight towards Xiong Batian. Its small body, it was surging with extremely strong fluctuations. Ripples spread out in all directions. Xiong Batian was still covering his eyes and had no time to care about Qi Yin. Princess Xiaoju's face turned from a complacent expression to one of rage, especially after sensing the surging profound waves in the air. Her face was ashen as she shouted, "Xiong Batian!" In front, Xiong Beishan's brown hair stood on end. After hearing Princess Xiaoju's shout, the huge body trembled. He instinctively dodged it. The huge figure leaped up again. Although Xiong Beishan's reaction was fast, when he leaped into the air, he was unable to dodge the attack. But the waves of energy coming towards him, however, it brushed past its body. The powerful blast nearly sent Xiong Beishan's towering mountain-like body flying. As he retreated, he naturally retreated to the area where the onlookers were gathered. Everyone was so shocked that they screamed and quickly moved away. For a moment, the scene was extremely chaotic. Xiong Beishan's body swayed. He could not stand steadily and fell to the ground with a bang. Gravel flew all over the ground. There were also a few onlookers who didn't manage to dodge in time and were directly crushed into minced meat by Xiong Batian. The entire street, there was a deathly silence. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in astonishment. Their jaws dropped to the ground in surprise. Chapter 4282. As for the red bird that was called Trash when it spread its wings, it was extremely noble and elegant. Wait, that bird. When did it have such an extraordinary momentum? Clearly, just now, no matter how they looked at it, It was just an ordinary bird. How could there be such a great change in the blink of an eye? If it weren't for the fact that everyone had been staring at the duel between Qi Yin and Xiong Batian, they all had doubts. Did he change to a different bird halfway through? That bird actually defeated the god-level combat bear beast. Yes, defeated. Any one of the onlookers was an expert of the profound rank. Naturally, they could see it. If it weren't for Princess Xiaoju's reminder, Xiong Batian couldn't dodge Qi Yan's attack at all. It was very likely that he was not only blind in one eye. Even his life was lost here. That bird was actually so strong. Gu Yun's tightly clenched heart was finally relieved. She hurriedly said, "Since the outcome has been decided, Princess Xiaoju, please accept your defeat." As she spoke, she wanted to take over Qi Yan. But before she could lift her foot, Xiaoju screamed in a low voice, "What outcome has been decided? My Xiong Batian can still fight. It didn't lose." Then, she urged Xiong Batian in a stern and urgent voice, "Stand up for this princess. You can't even kill a stupid bird. What use do I have for you?" Her sharp and arrogant voice was like a death sentence. Xiong Batian, who was lying on the ground and howling miserably, trembled. Blood overflowed from the bear's clenched paw and dyed all its hair red. A fierce roar came from its mouth. His body was swaying, and he forced himself to stand up. The huge body, every movement, it shook the already cracked ground. And the more he moved, Xiong Baishan's eyes and chest, which had been injured by the wave just now, all felt a sharp pain. Behind him, Princess Xiaoju was still gritting her teeth and shouting, giving orders. This made the onlookers look at Princess Xiaoju with eyes full of condemnation. This Princess Xiaoju was really too shameless, wasn't she? She didn't lose? One had to know, generally speaking, a duel between battle pets. The master must not intervene. This was almost an unwritten rule. However, Princess Xiaoju reminded Xiong Batian and intervened when the two pets were fighting. This action was no different from admitting defeat. How could Princess Xiaoju declare, with righteous indignation, that her battle pet hadn't lost and could still fight? Could it be that Princess Xiaoju couldn't tell? Had Xiong Baishan's eyes been destroyed? Shouldn't he call his battle pets back to tend to their wounds? Battle pets were very good at self-healing. If he returned it to the pet space in time, Xiong Baishan's eyes might recover. But Princess Xiaoju was still clamoring for Xiong Batian to continue fighting. He didn't care about his battle pets' lives, did he? What a powerful battle pet. He placed it in Princess Xiaoju's hand. This was simply a waste of God's gift. Everyone understood. Their gazes changed from envy to contempt and disdain. What are you looking at? If you look again, this princess will ask my father to dig out your eyes. How could Princess Xiaoju not understand the gazes of the people around her? She angrily roared at the crowd. He even raised his hand and pointed at the surroundings. Chapter 4283. Among the onlookers, there were many people from large clans. Moreover, it was very likely that one of them would stand out. It was an unworldly expert. Yu Ying was worried that her princess would accidentally offend the people from the large clans and offend an unworldly expert. At that time, it would be difficult to clean up the mess. However, Yu Ying could not persuade her princess in public. Otherwise, with her princess's personality, she would definitely be the biggest attitude in the world. She could only try her best to appease Princess Xiaoju. However, Princess Xiaoju obviously did not understand Yu Ying's good intentions. After hearing what was said, she shouted angrily, "Watching the show? Are you trying to make a fool out of me?" Don't think that she could not see it. Those people had clearly been mocking the first miss of the Gu clan earlier. But now, they were looking at her with such a hateful gaze. She was the first princess of the old city. Princess Xiaoju, the most beloved of her father. How dare they mock her? Your Highness! Yu Ying was frightened by Princess Xiaoju's roar. She pulled her arm and called out softly. The surrounding people were already sneering. Isn't Princess Xiaoju a joke? Instead of finding fault here, Why don't you think about how to explain to the families of the two dead people why they died under the hands of your highness, your war pet? Just now, when Xiong Batian fell, but he still crushed two profound practitioners to death. Ha! A dignified princess of the old city harassed Miss Gu on the street. She even tried to use force, but was taught a lesson by Miss Gu. The god-tier combat bear beast he summoned couldn't even deal with a bird beast that had no combat power at all. Your Highness, you are really a joke. The onlookers roared with laughter. They did not hide their disdain for Princess Xiazhu. Princess Xiazhu had obviously never been treated like this. Her eyes were wide open. Ying was worried that her Highness would make more mistakes. She quickly pressed Xiazhu's hand. Your Highness, don't lower yourself to their level. Look at young Master Rin. If the poison in his body is not cured, I'm afraid he will not be able to endure it. Only Rin Jiaming's name. Only then could Her Majesty let go of everything. As expected, when Princess Xiazhu heard Rin Jiaming's name, she immediately squatted down and caressed Rin Jiaming's face. Brother Ming, are you in pain again? How could Rin Jiaming have the strength to answer her? Panting heavily, his body twitched from time to time in pain. Princess Xiazhu placed all her attention on Rin Jiaming. This scene caused the eyes of the onlookers who were mocking Xiazhu to be filled with even more disdain. There were also some people who looked at Xiong Batian, who stood there with his hands over his eyes, his voice hoarse. She cared so much for an outsider. He had left the battle pet that had risked its life for him on the battlefield. The other side, the duel could already be considered over. When Princess Xiazhu was focusing on Rin Jiaming, Qian flapped its wings and flew back to Yiqing Luo. Guyan stared blankly at Qian. He felt that Qian's red phoenix feathers seemed to be coated with a layer of light. Obviously, from the outside, it looked no different from before. But somehow, he felt that something had changed. Guyan couldn't tell what kind of feeling this was. Qian's speed seems to be faster than before. Guyan tried to probe. Chapter 4284. Previously, Qian was just flying a little faster than ordinary birds. Now, Qian, it was almost as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, it came to Yiqing Luo. This was not normal. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and caught Qian, holding its small body in her arms. She looked up at Guyan and smiled. My Qian is more powerful. Guyan, what did powerful mean? What did it mean in which aspect? But Yiqing Luo obviously didn't intend to elaborate. Guyan didn't continue to ask, but her eyes couldn't help but move to Qian. Yiqing Luo didn't stop it. Her slender fingers gently stroked the phoenix feathers on Qian. The fine and soft phoenix feathers were overflowing with light and vibrant colors. It was completely different from the previous touch. She looked down and met Qian's eyes. A smile appeared on her pink lips. Well done, Qian, you're really great. Her pink lips opened slightly. Her voice was so low that even Gu Yun, who was standing next to her, didn't hear it. Only Qian, who was looking at her, heard these words. Its red eyes were stained with a proud smile. Of course, don't you know who I am? The proud little guy raised his neck high, his eyes full of pride. Yiqing Luo chuckled. Yes, you're the majestic grandpa bird. Now, Qian, in the battle with Xiong Batian, it broke through the blood-bone barbaric king's power blockade. The reason why it was so easy, it was because when Qian accepted the challenge, when Yiqing Luo touched it, she took the opportunity to feed the only pill that could open up the body to the greatest extent and quickly absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth into Qian's mouth. Even Qian itself didn't know. It only knew, after it accepted the challenge, there had been a warm current flowing in its body, constantly rushing back and forth in its body. It always had a kind of, once a place in its body was hit by the warm current, it could recover to its power as a sacred beast. And this verification, after it was directly sent flying by Xiong Batian, it was confirmed. When his body crashed into the ancient tree, his internal organs felt as if they had been shattered. That warm current seemed to have found a place to vent. Ka! His head buzzed for a moment. Following that, it felt an endless stream of beast power spreading throughout its body. It was the power of its holy beast. The beast power that belonged to the vermilion bird had returned. Although the beast energy recovered was less than a third of what it was before. It was also unable to freely change its body size like before. However, against a deity-level magical beast, it was impossible. It was more than enough. However, at the end of the day, the medicinal pills which Yi Qing Luo had given him were merely supplementary in nature. Scarlet Flame could recover 1/3 of its power. This was Qi Yin relying on his own willpower to hold on. If it had been intimidated by Xiong Beishan's beast might from the very beginning, it would have died. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the current outcome. Such a big thing had happened. Xiaozhu's battle pet had smashed 2 profound practitioners from different family forces to death. More things were involved in this matter. Yi Qing Luo didn't have the mood to waste any more time here. He took out a medicine bottle from his bosom and put it in Gu Yun's hand. Gu Yun didn't have time to react, only to see Yi Qing Luo's vision sweeping towards Ren Jiaming's direction. Gu Yun understood. Chapter 4285. Before she got close, Xiaozhu looked at Gu Yun vigilantly. What do you want to do? Gu Yun handed the bottle to Yu Ying. Our first miss is kind and won't care about Princess Xiaozhu's rudeness. Although Princess Xiaozhu lost this duel, this antidote was given to you by our first Mississippi. Gu Yun slightly raised her chin. Her attitude was very arrogant. Her words made Yu Ying's face as dark as the bottom of a pot. Princess Xiaozhu was even more furious when she heard this. I didn't lose. Gu Yun coldly smiled, the corners of her mouth twitching. Whether or not you lost, your Highness knows very well in your heart. This servant is only following orders to give this antidote to your Highness. If your Highness is not willing to accept First Miss Good Intentions, this servant will report back to First Mississippi. Saying this, she put away the antidote and turned to leave. Wait. Princess Xiaozhu immediately spoke, her expression ugly as she stared at the bottle in Gu Yun's hand. Is this Brother Ming's antidote? Gu Yun's mouth twitched, as if she had already guessed that Princess Xiaozhu would do this. She turned around and said with a smile, Yes. Give the antidote to me. Princess Xiaozhu pursed her lips and stretched out her hand. Gu Yun didn't move. She continued with a smile. Your Highness, this is specially given to you by our first miss out of kindness. Shouldn't your Highness thank First Miss? She deliberately emphasized the words kind and used the honorific your Highness. It made Xiaozhu's heart feel suffocated. Her expression darkened as she glared at Gu Yun. My precious body is willing to accept her antidote. It is her honor, and you want me to thank her? Don't even think about it. Oh. Gu Yun decisively put the bottle into her sleeve. I'm afraid First Miss doesn't need such an honor. Gu Yun. Princess Xiaozhu's face was livid as she shouted Gu Yun's name. Don't think that you can stand on my head just because you have the first miss of the Gu residence to support you. If what happened today reaches Royal Father's ears, do you think the Gu residence will sacrifice a servant girl to protect the relationship between the imperial family and the Gu residence? Gu Yun's expression didn't change. She wasn't moved by Princess Xiaozhu's threat. She knew better than anyone how much Lord Bone doted on eldest Mississippi. Even the dominoes were given to eldest Mississippi. She had eldest young miss to back her up, so of course she had nothing to fear, although they did not spend much time together. Gu Yun was very clear about this. As long as he treated eldest miss sincerely, eldest miss would definitely not let anything happen to her. Even if something really happened, she had nothing to fear. If she could sacrifice herself for the Bone residence, she would not shirk her duty. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo's voice rang out. Gu Yun, let's go. Yes, eldest miss. Gu Yun restrained the thoughts in her eyes and was about to leave. How could Princess Xiaozhu let Gu Yun leave like this? She shouted, Gu Yun, stop. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to leave. She shouted in a low voice while giving Yu Ying a meaningful look. Yu Ying's figure flashed and appeared in front of Gu Yun. Gu Yun's eyes turned cold. Move aside. Hand over the antidote. Yu Ying pursed her lips, her face full of vigilance. In terms of strength, she was inferior to Gu Yun. If Gu Yun made a move, she wasn't sure if she could stop Gu Yun. Not waiting for Gu Yun to open her mouth, Yi Qing Luo's serene and elegant voice rang again. Princess Xia Zhu's attitude really makes me unhappy, and I really can't feel Princess Xia Zhu's urgency for the antidote. Chapter 4286. Since Princess Xia Zhu is not in a hurry, we can talk about the antidote when I'm in a better mood. Princess Xia Zhu's pupils constricted. The facial features on his face became distorted with anger. She gritted her teeth, and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't bother about her venomous gaze, as she maintained her contented expression. Ren Jiaming's body suddenly twitched even more violently. A thin layer of sweat drenched his robe. His handsome face was filled with pain. Princess Xia Zhu hugged Ren Jiaming's body, her heart aching. She gritted her teeth and said, "What do you want?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "What do you want in order to give me the antidote?" Princess Xia Zhu gritted her teeth and asked. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes with an innocent look. "Haven't I already given you the antidote?" Her Highness refused, didn't she? Xia Zhu's face darkened, alternating between green and white. Her chest seemed to be filled with endless anger. Apparently, Gu Yun's arrogant words earlier were all under Yi Qing Luo's instructions. In other words, if she didn't lower her head, Yi Qing Luo wouldn't give her the antidote. If Yi Qing Luo was unwilling, she couldn't even think about touching the antidote. Looking at the pale face of her beloved man in her arms, Xia Zhu forcefully closed her eyes and quickly said, "Thank you, eldest miss." With that, her face darkened and she stretched out her hand. "Give me the antidote." Gu Yun was surprised. "Did your Highness thank me just now?" This servant doesn't seem to have heard it. Her Highness' sincerity. Eldest miss can't see it either. Princess Xia Zhu's face darkened even more. Did she have to be humble again? Obviously, that was the case. Judging from Gu Yun's attitude, it was as if she was waiting for her to thank her again. Princess Xia Zhu clenched her fists and said word by word, "This princess sincerely thanks First Miss for your help. This princess is very grateful." As soon as she finished speaking, Princess Xia Zhu's face darkened. Between his brows, there was a chilling, killing intent. Gu Yun took a glance at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo nodded her head lightly. Then, with a magnanimous look on her face, she took out the antidote. "Your Highness, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Who asked our First Miss to be so kind?" Xia Zhu's hand pinched her own flesh tightly. She lowered her head in silence. Yu Ying hurriedly took the antidote. Gu Yun raised her chin up high as she turned around and walked towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo calmly looked at Xia Zhu before he left with Gu Yun. Then, he threw a palm-sized medicine bag in Xiong Beishan's direction. No one could see clearly where she took out the packet of medicine from, although there was something wrong with Xiong Beishan's eyes. However, as a beast, its instincts were sharp enough to sense that something was approaching. It stretched out its paw. The medicine bag fell into his palm. In his ears, the girl's faint voice sounded, "Your master doesn't care about you, but you still have to care about yourself. Even if you're a magical beast, you're a magical beast with your own thoughts." Just as Xiong Batian was about to throw the medicine bag away, he froze. A low growl came from its throat. However, the person on the other side did not speak again. Instead, he took Gu Yun and left directly. When a crowd saw them, they automatically opened up a path. Xiong Batian put the medicine bag to his nose and sniffed. He couldn't tell what it was. Chapter 4287. Its sharp claws tore the medicine packet. A pile of powder fell into its palm. Without any hesitation, it pressed the powder on its injured eye. The powder entered its eye. The sharp pain made Xiong Batian let out a shrill cry. Following this, the enormous figure turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared before the crowd's eyes. This scene, everyone in the surroundings was stunned. Just now, what medicine packet did Lady Gu of the Gu residence give Xiong Batian? Xiong Batian just pressed it onto its eye? What was going on? Where did Xiong Batian go? It didn't seem like he had returned to the pet's space. Could it be that Xiong Batian had betrayed them? That was impossible. Usually, battle pets that had formed a blood contract could not leave their master. As long as their master summoned them, they would return to their master no matter how far away they were. Everyone was filled with shock and confusion. But Princess Xiaozhu didn't seem to notice that her battle pet had left. She stared unblinkingly at the two figures in front of her, who were gradually getting further and further away. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. The surging anger seemed to want to burn away all of her rationality. When everyone saw this, they didn't know what to feel in their hearts. Princess Xiaozhu didn't even care where Xiong Batian went. They were just bystanders. What right did they have to care? The coldness in Princess Xiaozhu's eyes seemed to have frozen the air around her. The killing intent in her eyes seemed to want to devour everyone. Yuying was terrified. She had served the princess for many years, but this was the first time she had seen the princess so angry. Her highness was not to be blamed. The people from the Gu residence had indeed gone too far, but they couldn't afford to cause any more trouble in the current situation. Yuying squatted down next to Princess Xiaozhu and whispered, "Your Highness, please detoxify the poison in young Master Ren's body first. When we return to the palace, we will explain this to the Emperor." Princess Xiaozhu's hand trembled. He forcefully suppressed the anger that was squeezing in his chest. Yes, Brother Ming's health was the most important. Detoxifying the poison in Brother Ming's body was the most important thing. This vengeance, when she returned to the palace, she would ask her father to avenge her. Princess Xiaozhu took the medicine bottle and opened it. It was another indescribable smell. The smell was even more unpleasant than the liquid that Princess Xiaozhu had drunk previously. Xiaozhu was completely unable to describe what kind of smell this was. Her face instantly turned ashen. Did that bitch do it on purpose? What antidote could be so smelly? She was stinky, and so was Ren Jiaming. If it wasn't intentional, then her name, Gong Xiaozhu, would be written upside down. Yuying's expression was also very complicated. However, looking at her own princess, she still advised in a low voice, since she dared to take out the antidote in front of everyone. This antidote must be real. Let's detoxify the antidote first. Young Master Ren looks like he can't hold on much longer. Hearing the last sentence, Princess Xiaozhu gritted her teeth and poured the antidote into Ren Jiaming's mouth. An indescribable stench overflowed from Ren Jiaming's mouth. The entire street was filled with an unpleasant stench. The onlookers couldn't help but cover their mouths and noses. After taking the antidote, Ren Jiaming's body finally stopped twitching. His tightly knitted eyebrows also gradually relaxed. Ugh! The piercing pain in Ren Jiaming's body finally stopped. Chapter 4288. He was suffocated by the stench, and it was extremely difficult for him to breathe. He couldn't bear it any longer as he suddenly opened his eyes. Brother Ming. After feeding him the antidote, Xiaozhu kept staring at Ren Jiaming intently. The minute she saw Ren Jiaming's eyes open, Xiaozhu pounced on his chest with an agitated expression. But the minute he opened his mouth was filled with a rotten stench, almost making Ren Jiaming faint from the choking. Unfortunately, the owner of that stench didn't have any self-awareness, seeing that he didn't speak for a long time. Instead, she leaned in closer. In his mouth, the stench of various feces and rotting corpses became even more intense. Green veins popped out on Ren Jiaming's forehead as he raised his hand and pushed Xiaozhu away. Xiaozhu hadn't reacted in time when she was pushed away by an extremely strong force. Her body was unstable as she fell onto the ground in a disheveled state. She sat on the ground in a daze as she looked at Ren Jianming in disbelief. Brother Ming, why did he suddenly push her? Didn't he know how much she had suffered because of him? Ren Jianming didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his own actions. He speedily stood up, and as he tidied up his messy robe, he swept his gaze around the surroundings. After he didn't discover the person whom he wanted to see, he then turned his gaze toward Xiaozhu. Where is she? That she was naturally referring to Yiqing Luo. Xiaozhu's heart was throbbing in pain. She met Ren Jianming's eyes without saying a word. Ren Jianming's brows creased tightly as he repeated, I'm asking you, where is she? This sentence, his tone became heavier. On his face, there was an obvious impatience. The man's attitude completely made Xiaozhu's tensed-up emotions collapse. Her eyes were scarlet red as she howled in a sobbing tone. Where is she? Where is she? Brother Ming, do you only know how to ask this one sentence? I'm telling you, she's gone, left without any hesitation. She doesn't care whether you're dead or alive. She's such a vicious woman. What's there for you to care about? You save her, but she poisoned you. She made you suffer so much. Why are you still thinking about her? Do you know, in order to save you, I even threw away my dignity as a princess. If it weren't for me, the poison in your body wouldn't have been cured at all. Xiaozhu roared hysterically. As he roared, his voice choked with sobs, and tears covered his entire face. She was hysterical. Her accusation. This caused the man's face to darken. Xiaozhu thought that he had listened to her words. However, in the next instant, the man's sullen shout completely shattered all of Xiaozhu's dreams. Who asked you to detoxify me? I was poisoned on purpose to get close to her. Ren Jianming pointed at Xiaozhu and scolded angrily. Then, he didn't even look at Xiaozhu. With a leap, he had already disappeared in front of everyone. Princess Xiaozhu was left sitting on the ground in a daze. He was so stiff that he couldn't move. Yu Ying's heart ached when she saw this. She knelt down beside Xiaozhu and said, Your Highness, Yu Ying, tell me, don't you think this princess is really like a joke? Xiaozhu asked in a hoarse voice. For Ren Jianming, she could even throw away her dignity. She could bow down to Yiqing Luo. But, in the end, not only did Ren Jianming not give her a word of concern, instead, he blamed her for being a busybody. Her busybody? If it wasn't for the fact that she loved him so much, if it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't bear to see him getting hurt. Chapter 4289. Carrying Qiyin, Yiqing Luo, who was on her way back to the Bone residence, suddenly sneezed. Gu Yun asked with concern, Has eldest miss caught a cold? I'm fine. Yiqing Luo touched her neck. This feeling was probably someone talking bad about her behind her back. Gu Yun pursed her lips and said worriedly, Eldest miss, aren't you worried that Princess Xiaozhu will inform the emperor about this? Even though he was far away from the crowd, the expression on Yiqing Luo's face was still that carefree expression. Isn't this inevitable? Yiqing Luo tilted her head and took a look at Gu Yun. Based on her character, she would definitely ask that emperor to seek revenge for her. Moreover, even if she doesn't complain, the emperor will know about this matter. So, what is there to worry about? She and Princess Xiaozhu's quarrel could be said to have caused a great commotion. More than half of the street had been destroyed. It even crushed 2 profound practitioners to death. How could the emperor not know about it? Hearing this, Gu Yun's expression changed. If the emperor wants to intervene, Bone Lord isn't in the mansion. This matter might be very troublesome. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. This emperor, what is his identity? As a newcomer, Yiqing Luo didn't know the rules of the Heaven Realm. He also did not know what the position of the emperor that Gu Yun spoke of was in the Heaven Realm. After all, the rules of every realm were different. The branch offices were also different. For example, the Nirvana realm had 4 continents and 4 kings, but they were restricted by the 4 great sections. For example, the Earth domain had 3 main cities and the Ling Long Palace. Apart from the three main city lords and the Ling Long Palace's palace lord, there was also an earthly sovereign who was in charge of the entire Earth domain. Then, what was the position of the Emperor of the Heaven Realm? Guyan looked at Yi Qing Luo strangely, as though she didn't understand why Yi Qing Luo would ask this question. However, he still suppressed the curiosity in his heart and replied, "The Emperor is the Emperor of the Heaven Realm. The Gong clan of the royal family can be said to be the most respected people in our Heaven Realm." Yi Qing Luo, in other words, Sky Emperor? At first, she had thought that the Emperor Guyan was talking about he was probably referring to a city lord of an ancient city in the Heaven Realm. This was equivalent to the city lords of Shadowless City, without Yin City, and without Embroiling City in the Earth Domain. Unexpectedly, this Emperor of the Heaven Realm, he was referring to the Emperor of the entire Heaven Realm. It was similar to the position of the Earth King in the Earth Realm. Yi Qing Luo indicated that she was trembling, bowing down to the big shots. However, eldest Miss need not worry. Bone Lord's power is definitely not inferior to the Emperor's. Even if the Emperor wants to touch you, he wouldn't dare to do so out of respect for Bone Lord. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo didn't say a word, Guyan immediately appeased her. Moreover, Bone Lord had passed the bone token to eldest young Mississippi. Eldest young Miss has the entire Gu residence as her backing, so the Emperor wouldn't dare to touch you. The coming days will be tough. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue. It would indeed be tough. She was brought to the Heaven Realm by the barbaric Bloodbone King. Her identity had spread throughout the Heaven Realm, but no one had ever seen her. Just like that, she snatched away the title of the #1 woman that Gong Xiazhu fancied the most and attracted the interest of all the profound practitioners. Then, as soon as he appeared, he ruthlessly slapped Gong Xiazhu's face. This was also indirectly slapping the royal family in the face. No matter what, the Emperor wanted to regain his face. He would definitely take action. In addition to the matter of the death of 2 cultivators, Gong Xiazhu would probably push half of the responsibility to her. Chapter 4290. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she stretched out her hand and placed it on Gu Yun's shoulder. Even if he's not around, isn't there still me? Are you worried that I can't protect you? Gu Yun hurriedly shook her head. Eldest Miss was personally chosen by Bone Lord. This servant naturally believes in eldest Mississippi. Your expression doesn't look like you believe me. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at her, her eyes filled with craftiness. Now you know how to be afraid? When you were facing the princess just now, you were quite imposing. Guyun's face suddenly turned red. This servant was just, I'm not blaming you. Yi Qing Luo patted her on the shoulder. You've done very well. I like your arrogance, very much like my style. Well done. Continue to work hard. Guyun's face turned even redder. To be my person, you must maintain today's imposing manner. Do you understand? Yi Qing Luo replied. Guyan nodded. This servant will remember. Her voice was soft. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's gaze, there was a different emotion. This young miss, she was really different from the rich young lady she had seen before. In front of Yi Qing Luo, she could feel it. Yi Qing Luo didn't treat her as a servant, a person to dispatch. Instead, he treated her as one of his own, as a friend. Thinking of this, Gu Yun's heart softened a little. All right, Gu Yun. Yi Qing Luo let go of Gu Yun and continued walking forward as she asked, towards the matters of the 4 great heavenly families. Do you have any understanding? When Gu Yun heard this, she immediately replied, the position of the 4 great Tian families in the Heaven Realm is on par with the Emperor. Both sides maintain a superficial balance. How is the relationship between the 4 great sky families? Yi Qing Luo understood that these 4 great sky families were similar to the 4 great sects when she was in Nirvana Realm. The 4 great Tian families have always supported each other. There has never been any struggle for power or any conflict of interest. Guyan suddenly paused. She pondered for a moment, then suppressed her voice and quietly said, "However, according to the information that the Gu residence has arranged outside, this servant has heard that the four great families have been in constant internal strife recently. It seems that some decision has attracted the disapproval of a few families." Yiqing Luo didn't believe that there would be any mutual support between the large families. Can live in peace. It was just that he hadn't really harmed his own interests yet. The disputes that followed were endless. It was very likely that there was a great disparity in benefits, which led to internal strife. Therefore, there was no such thing as an absolutely stable partnership. The most important thing was whether or not he could achieve the benefits he wanted. Eldest Miss, you don't have to worry about the Ren family. Even though the Ren family's second young master has outstanding talent and is the Ren family's favorite, the Ren family will not go to the extent of becoming enemies with the Gu residents for the sake of the Ren family's second young master. Gu Yun's words were filled with brainless confidence towards Gu Jun. Yiqing Luo really wanted to know, just what kind of position did the Blood-Bone Barbarian King and the Bone Mansion occupy in the Heaven Realm? Why did Gu Yun's words sound like the most powerful people in the entire Heaven Realm were all afraid of the Bone Mansion? The most powerful forces in the entire Heaven Realm were all afraid of the Bone Mansion. The entire Heaven Realm was afraid of the Bone Mansion. Yiqing Luo, alright, in any case, the Bone Mansion was the most awesome existence. It was better to return to the Bone Residence and sort out the matters of the Heaven Realm first. She had to think of a way to undo the seal placed in her body by the barbaric Bloodbone King. She needed to recover her strength. She had to get in touch with Xian as soon as possible. Chapter 4291. Furthermore, in this Heaven Realm where experts ran amok, there were experts everywhere. If she didn't have profound energy to protect her, she had to bear the title of the young miss of the Gu residence. There were many people who want her dead. She couldn't always hide behind others and rely on their protection. Relying on others. How could he be more reliable than relying on himself? After returning to the Bone residence, the first thing Yiqing Luo did was to make a list and passed it to Gu Yun. Gu Yun glanced over. There were all kinds of miscellaneous herbs that didn't seem to be precious. Since she was young, Gu Yun had also received basic medical knowledge. But when he looked at the list, he saw the rows of names of the herbs. Gu Yun really couldn't tell what effect these herbs had when combined together. However, she didn't ask any further. He immediately went to arrange this matter. When Gu Yun returned, Yiqing Luo immediately asked Gu Yun to rummage through the Gu residence's warehouse to see if there were any better quality pill furnaces. Gu Yun couldn't hold back her curiosity. Young Miss wants to refine pills? Yiqing Luo nodded her head. I don't have a lot of medicinal pills on me, so I need to prepare some more in case of emergencies. All the elixirs that she had refined were stored in the profound Phoenix Ring. The Bloodbone Barbarian King should also know about the connection between the Netherworld Phoenix Ring and the Netherworld Dragon Ring. She could not establish any connection with the Phoenix Ring, not to mention taking things out of the profound Phoenix Ring. The poison that she poisoned Gong Xiazhu and Ren jamming on the street just now was from the space pocket that she kept on her a long time ago. Normally, he had the profound Phoenix Ring and the Azure Dew bracelet to move around. She didn't need a dimensional pocket. The only space pocket she had on her was something that those youngsters in the World Group had forced her to bring along. She had always carried it with her and had never opened it to see what was inside. Unexpectedly, in other words, this space pocket, let her show off for the first time in this Heaven Realm where experts were as numerous as the clouds. She should thank the brother who forced her to carry the space pocket with her. However, after all, the space in the interspatial pocket wasn't much. It was filled with all sorts of poisons, but most of it was medicine for external and internal injuries. Yiqing Luo had no profound energy now. The only thing that could protect him was poison. He had to refine a higher quality, colorless, and odorless poison himself. After all, as the young miss of the Gu residence, the news of her using poison today would spread throughout the entire Heaven Realm. Other people would definitely be on their guard when interacting with her. The poison in the space pocket was not very useful. Guyan quickly went to make arrangements. In the following days, Yiqing Luo squatted in the pill refining room that Guyan had specially arranged for her, refining various kinds of poisons. She did not have profound energy, but she had scarlet flame. Qi Yin, who had recovered a third of his beast power, opened his mouth and spat out the flame. Using it to refine pills was much better than using her profound strength to refine pills. On top of that, Guyan had arranged for her to purchase the best medicinal ingredients in pill furnaces. The refining process was rather smooth. 5 days later, Yiqing Luo walked out from the pill refining room with an ashen face. Guyan, who was always guarding the door, was actually not there. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept across the surroundings. He could vaguely sense that there were 2 people in the dark. It was probably Gu Yi and Gu San. Ever since that day on the streets when she kept Gu Yi's Dark Guard captain's wooden token, these 2 people were still abiding by Bloodbone Barbaric King's orders, secretly guarding her. But, in the dark, Chapter 4292. Previously, when the 2 of them were hiding in the dark, she wouldn't be able to find out at all. Now, even though she was someone without any profound energy, she could still faintly sense their aura. If they didn't do it on purpose, she didn't believe it. But Yiqing Luo didn't bother about those 2. Just as Zhang Xian was about to return to his room to tidy himself up, a voice suddenly rang out. A clamor came from the front. Following that, about 5 to 6 people walked over in unison. The one walking at the front had a solemn expression and was talking to the people behind him in a righteous manner. However, it couldn't stop those people from advancing. Among those few people, Yiqing Luo spotted a familiar figure, Gong Xiazhu. The 5 people behind him were the awe-inspiring middle-aged man and the white-haired old man. Seeing that Gong Xiazhu was among them, the few of them charged forward aggressively. Yiqing Luo also knew that they came with ill intentions. Their pace was extremely fast. He saw Yiqing Luo standing in front. Guyan's expression changed slightly as she said something to those few people and hastened her footsteps towards Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, what's the matter? Yiqing Luo raised her chin towards those people behind her. Gu Yuma pursed her lips. It's still because of Princess Xiazhu. She quickly told him what had happened in the past few days in a concise and comprehensive manner. It was probably she had been concocting pills for a few days. Gong Xiazhu had been causing trouble all this time. Using her status as a princess, she forcefully pushed the blame of the cultivator who was crushed to death by Xiong Batian to Yiqing Luo. Then, in front of the emperor, she tearfully complained about her grievances and the face she had lost that day. In addition, there were rumors among the people. The emperor was furious. Then, he thoroughly investigated the matter. It was discovered that the second young master of the Gu clan had also been humiliated by the young miss of the Gu clan. Then, he joined forces with the Rin family. As a result, a royal family, 2 clans with profound practitioner forces that had died, and the Rin family were all clamoring for the young lady of the Gu family to give them an explanation. But Yiqing Luo had been refining pills these few days. He refused to meet her at the door. The entire Gu residence would not be able to give them any explanation. Wasn't this looking down on the imperial power? Wasn't this looking down on the other forces? Everyone was enraged. Under Gong Xiazhu's instigation, he was valiant and high-spirited, directly charging in with Gong Xiazhu. Following that was what Yiqing Luo was looking at right now. After Yiqing Luo heard this, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. These people spoke in a dignified manner. What kind of explanation did they want? To put it bluntly, it was just that the imperial family found it hard to accept the Gu Mansion's actions in the Heaven Realm. Furthermore, the other factions were more or less respectful and resentful towards the Bone Mansion. This time, he was just using it as a pretext to make a fuss. His main purpose was to suppress the Bone Residence's prestige while Bone Lord was not around. Most importantly, He wanted to investigate the background of the young miss of the Bone residence. As soon as Guyan finished speaking, a few people walked over. At the very front, Gong Xiaoju's eyes were filled with viciousness. Her lips curled as she sneered. First young miss of the Gu clan, long time no see. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't bother about her. Instead, she swept a glance at the few of them. Did this group of people run over to the Gu residence to create trouble? Gong Xiaoju's expression sunk as a sliver of embarrassment flashed past her eyes. That old man standing behind, Gong Xiaoju, slowly opened his mouth. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence. Eldest young miss should be clear of our motive for coming here. Chapter 4293. The old man pulled a long face and tried to suppress his anger. A few days ago, the young lady and her Royal Highness's battle pet caused the deaths of our young masters. He paused, his voice suddenly rising. Don't tell me. Eldest Miss shouldn't give us an explanation? When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression didn't have the slightest change, as she shot him a glance with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. Your young master's death. What has it got to do with me? Someone from your family died, and you're asking me for an explanation? Am I your father? No. Am I your mother? His words were like a heavy slap to the old man's face. The old man's face immediately flushed red. His face was ashen. Is this the upbringing of the Gu residents? Upbringing is also for people. Yiqing Luo disagreed. Do you think you can be considered as human? Why should she be nice to people who came to find trouble with her? Will they stop looking for trouble if he gave them a good attitude? Yiqing Luo's words directly scolded those few people on the opposite side. The few of them looked at each other with extremely ugly expressions. They had heard that the young miss of the Gu residence had a temper that was not to be trifled with. Moreover, she was extremely arrogant and despotic. After seeing the man, he was even better than the rumors. First young miss of the Gu clan. Gong Xiaoju took a step forward as she looked at Yiqing Luo with a venomous gaze. The reason why we're here today is merely to seek an explanation for the matter that day. Eldest young miss is so overbearing. Could it be that you have a guilty conscience? Seeing Yiqing Luo, the hatred in her heart surged up. The humiliation she had suffered in Yiqing Luo's hands that day. She wanted to make Yiqing Luo pay back bit by bit. Yiqing Luo glanced at her disapprovingly as her smile was filled with ridicule. What am I guilty of? As for what happened that day, the onlookers will naturally know. What explanation do I need to give you? She looked at the others as if she was looking at an idiot. With just a few words, you managed to incite the representatives of the clan to come to the Bone residence to demand an explanation. Are you all stupid? The people who were treated like fools. Why was this girl so happy to criticize the heavens and the earth? They naturally knew what had happened that day. Since they would represent the clan and follow Gong Xiaoju to the Gu residence, it was impossible for them to do so. Naturally, it was the will of the family. His goal wasn't just for what had happened that day. However, when it came from the mouth of the first miss of the Gu residence, it was as if the first miss of the Gu residence. Did that make them fools who could be incited at will? Eldest young miss, since the lords have come, they have naturally investigated thoroughly. You still want to quibble? Gong Xiaoju sneered. Just the fact that you poisoned me and Brother Ming is enough for you to pay with your life. He mentioned the word poison. The old man's face darkened even more. Even his eyes revealed a ferocious look that could not be ignored. The others also stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. Shrouded by several pairs of gloomy eyes, the young girl's expression didn't change. Instead, her pink lips curled into a mocking smile. Pay with my life. Yiqing Luo sneered. Then why don't you try? I also want to see how you're going to take my life. Gong Xiaoju clenched her fists so tightly that her fingertips turned slightly white. Bone Lord is not in the heaven realm. How long do you think you can be arrogant for? Chapter 4294. Who are you calling flustered and exasperated? Gong Xiaozhu couldn't control her own emotions as her fingernails almost broke her palms. Her venomous eyes stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo. The unwillingness in her heart spread throughout her chest. Obviously, the young lady was in a sorry state. Her face was covered in dust. On that face, there were patches of black marks which looked extremely comical. The clothes on her were in a mess. Her skirt was stained with dust and charcoal. She looked like a refugee who escaped from the famine. But why? When the young lady smiled and raised her head, even she felt pressured by that awe-inspiring and oppressive aura. Gong Xiaozhu wasn't willing to admit it, but she had to admit it. The eldest young miss of the Gu residence was born to stand on a high position. Thinking of this, she clenched her fists tightly and tightened her grip. I have nothing to say to you. Yi Qing Luo knocked on her sore arm as her entire body was sticky and extremely uncomfortable. Gu Yun, send the guests off. Wasting time with these people. Why not go to the hot spring room to tidy herself up? Eldest young miss. The few of them immediately walked past Gu Yun and stood in a row in front of Yi Qing Luo. Eldest young miss, Bone Lord is not in the residence now, so you are the master of the Gu residence. Don't you feel that? Your current actions are bringing shame to the Gu residence. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was fixed on the person who spoke. It was a middle-aged man who stood on the right side of Gong Xiaozhu, looking at his dressing and temperament. He should be someone from some family who was in charge of some small places. As a representative, he was sent to test her bottom line. He could be considered as cannon fodder. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with a teasing smile. Are you lecturing me? Bringing shame to the Gu residence? She wanted to play with the Gu residence till it was ruined, all right? Why would she be afraid of the Gu residence's reputation? The middle-aged man was questioned by Yi Qing Luo in a cold tone as his heart trembled as he stuttered. No, I don't dare. I just saw that eldest young miss is young and arrogant, so I reminded eldest young Mississippi. Yi Qing Luo sneered. You said it yourself. I am the current master of the Gu residence. I can do whatever I want, and it has nothing to do with you. If you don't like my way of doing things, then scram from the Gu residence. You. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and raised his hand to point at Yi Qing Luo. But as soon as he raised his hand, he gritted his teeth and put it down. You're simply unreasonable. This was no longer a problem that could be explained with the word arrogance. This girl was extremely hostile to all of them. As long as he opened his mouth, he would be unable to defend himself. Gu Yun, who was standing by Yi Qing Luo's side, was stunned by this valiant Yi Qing Luo. After getting along with each other for some time, Gu Yun also knew that Yi Qing Luo wasn't such a flamboyant person. There must be a reason why she was so rude and unforgiving in her words. Gu Yun didn't show any abnormalities either. Gong Xiaozhu's red lips were tightly pursed into a straight line as she said word by word. Eldest young Mrs. Guilty look is rather laughable. Are you that afraid that we will ask about what happened that day? Eldest young miss kept on changing the topic, showing an impatient attitude to talk to us. Is it because you don't dare to talk to us? The few of them's expressions changed slightly as the way they looked at Yi Qing Luo had a subtle change. Chapter 4295. The Gong Xiaozhu they met a few days ago didn't seem to have any brains. The current Gong Xiaozhu actually had a brain. She even knew how to use such a method to create advantageous conditions for herself. If she continued to go against the heavens and earth, refusing to talk to them, this would then prove Gong Xiaozhu's words. If she compromised and was willing to have a good talk, Gong Xiaozhu's motive would be achieved. So no matter if she agreed or not to talk to them, to Gong Xiaozhu, this was 100 benefits and no harm at all. What are you doing? Gong Xiaozhu, who was stared at by Yi Qing Luo's naked gaze, felt uncomfortable as her brows creased tightly as she subconsciously raised her hand to block her chest. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was simply too naked and scorching hot, as though it was glued onto her body. Through her robe, she saw her body. being stared at by a lady with such a gaze. Gong Xiaozhu felt that it was very strange. Yiqing Luo suddenly grinned as she revealed an evil smile. Since Princess has already said so, looks like we have no choice but to talk. Her gaze swept across as she looked at Gu Yun. Prepare the tea. Let's take a look at what they want to discuss with me by creating such a big scene. Gu Yun hesitated as she looked at those few people and then at her own eldest Mississippi. In the end, she bowed and went to prepare the tea and snacks. Yiqing Luo's disheveled appearance was covered in dirt as she walked towards the meeting hall in the other direction. The few of them looked at each other again. Immediately after, they started walking at the same time as they followed behind Yiqing Luo. During this period of time, Yiqing Luo had memorized the geographical location of the Gu residence in her mind. She accurately found the meeting hall as she pushed the door and walked in. There was a solemn and cold atmosphere in the meeting hall. It should have not been used for a long time, but every day there would be servants coming in to clean up. Yiqing Luo sat down directly. Before my patience runs out, quickly say what you want to talk about. The few of them hesitated for a moment. They started to find chairs to sit down. The few middle-aged men's gazes looked towards the elderly man. Apparently, they were following the elderly man's lead. The elderly man's face, which was filled with wrinkles, was filled with seriousness and pretentiousness. His brows were tightly knitted into a bundle as his penetrating gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo without blinking. Since eldest miss is willing to talk, I won't beat around the bush, the old man said. He knew that if he beat around the bush, the girl would probably make things even more complicated. Perhaps it was because after a round of insults, nothing could be heard. The elders said bluntly, shouldn't you explain to the Ren family why you poisoned the second young master of the Ren family? This old man was indeed the representative of the Ren clan. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she propped up her chin. Don't you know that your second young master Ren willingly got poisoned? Naturally, she could tell. The cause of Ren Jiaming's poisoning. In order to get close to her, he didn't hesitate to poison himself and suffer pain. So before Yiqing Luo left, she specially passed the antidote to Ren Jiaming. She didn't want to have any other relationship with Ren Jiaming. In exchange for a bottle of antidote, Gong Xiaozhu would lower her head. But he had to admit, this Ren Jiaming's willpower was rather strong. That kind of inhuman torture, he could even withstand it. Of course, Yiqing Luo had never felt that the reason why Ren Jiaming did this was because he liked her and admired her. Hence he tried ways and means to get close to her. There was a motive behind this. Chapter 4296. The elderly man was choked by Yiqing Luo's words as his face flushed red again. You lass, you really have no sense of shame at all. Yiqing Luo propped her chin as she put on an innocent look. How am I not ashamed? The elderly man frowned as he knew that in terms of eloquence, he would probably be angered to death by her as he continued. Second young master is our Ren family's glory. Eldest young miss poisoned him without any explanation. Isn't that unreasonable? Gong Xiaozhu, who had been keeping silent, suddenly opened her mouth. Since you said that it was Brother Ming who willingly allowed you to poison him, then you shouldn't have done it in such a vicious manner. Do you know how much pain Brother Ming was in at that time? Brother Ming had never suffered any pain since he was young. It's you. It's you who made Brother Ming twitch on the ground in pain. Seeing Brother Ming in this state, how do you expect those onlookers to think of Brother Ming and the Ren family? Her complaints were filled with indignation. In an instance, it made the elderly man's expression stiffen as the gaze he shot at Yiqing Luo turned even colder. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but clicked her tongue. When he looked at Gong Xiaozhu, there was a deeper meaning in his eyes. This Gong Xiaozhu was really different now. Even these sounded as though she was feeling injustice for Ren Jiaming, feeling indignant and angry for him. In actual fact, she was indirectly telling the Ren family's elderly that the poison that Ren Jiaming was inflicted with wasn't a small poison. Bearing this in mind, she dragged the Ren family down saying that it was this lady who caused the Rin family to lose their face. Based on Gong Xiaoju's intelligence, she actually knew how to say these words? Could it be that she had underestimated Gong Xiaoju? At such a young age, her heart is already so vicious. It makes me suspect that eldest young miss is trying to take the opportunity to poison Rin family's second young master. The other middle-aged man suddenly stood up at this moment, as he used a suspicious gaze to look at Yi Qing Luo, guessing, just like how you poisoned the princess previously, you're trying to take the opportunity to claim the lives of the princess and Rin family's second young master. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes as she spoke impolitely. If I wanted to poison them to death, the both of them wouldn't be alive now. If you poison them, the entire heaven realm will not tolerate you. You were afraid, so you panicked. In the end, you had no choice but to hand over the antidote. The middle-aged man said again. Yi Qing Luo was tickled by him. Your imagination ability, even if you were to write a script, no one would be willing to accept it. There's no logic at all. Enough. The old man's brows furrowed even more tightly as he sternly rebuked. The middle-aged man immediately fell silent and shrunk his neck. The elderly pursed his lips tightly as he looked at Yi Qing Luo coldly. Eldest young miss, since we've taken the initiative to come here, it's to settle this matter. We don't want to argue with eldest young Mississippi. As he spoke, his expression became increasingly gloomy. It was as if a layer of dark clouds had covered the sky. Regardless of the reason for the poisoning, First Miss has indeed poisoned him and almost killed the second young master. The elderly looked at the rest of the middle-aged men. The other two young masters who were crushed to death by Xiong Batian also died in the battle between you and Princess Xiaoju. So the two young masters' deaths are definitely related to you. No matter what, eldest young miss should at least give us an explanation for this. When the old man asked his last question, the old man's eyes widened. In the air, an invisible pressure started to spread. Chapter 4297. The elderly and the rest naturally knew that Yi Qing Luo didn't have any profound energy on her. Under the pressure of this pressure, without any profound energy to protect her profound heart jade, an ordinary person was not able to withstand this kind of suppression. He intentionally released this kind of suppression. How would Yi Qing Luo not know what the elderly was planning? It was merely because Guyan wasn't around now. No one could protect her. When the oppressive aura came crashing down, Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her finger pointed forward gently. A dazzling red glow spread in the air like a flame. Swish, directly burning in the air. Gong Xiaoju and the rest were shocked. That dazzling red glow bared its fangs and brandished its claws, following the fluctuation in the air as it attacked towards the elderly's direction. The elderly casually flicked his sleeves as he split that red glow apart. The middle-aged man who was sitting beside him stood up abruptly as he cried out in shock. This is real fire? The elderly casually struck that red glow onto the middle-aged man's body. Instantly, the man's sleeves were ignited. The man was so frightened that he immediately fell onto the ground and rolled on the ground before he extinguished the flame. The elderly and the other middle-aged men's expressions instantly turned complicated and grave. They took a look at Yi Qing Luo from time to time. Then looking at the middle-aged man who was sprawled on the ground with half of his arm obviously burnt. That was actually a real flame? They thought that it was just the fluctuation of profound qi. Wait a minute. Wasn't the eldest young miss of the Gu residence a waste? There wasn't any fluctuation of profound qi on her. Why? Could it actually resist the imposing aura that he released? The elderly's expression sunk as his face was filled with suspicion and probing. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she took out a blazing red feather fan from somewhere and placed it under her chin, while the other hand was lazily raised toward a certain direction. The slender, white, jade-like lotus root seemed to be plated with a thin layer of white velvet light. She only raised it for a few breaths. Everyone saw a ball of red appearing in their line of sight. That was a red bird the size of 2 palms. The phoenix feathers, which were overflowing with brilliant colors, were sparkling with a dazzling radiance. When it extended its wings, it was like a rolling flame. It was Yiqing Luo's battle pet, which could speak human language. Gong Xiaoju's eyes immediately lit up. His eyes were fixed on Qi Yan. His eyes were filled with greed. It had only been a few days since they last met. This red bird had already changed into another form. Or was the bird that Zhang Xian had seen previously, the one that was called Trash? This battle pet, not only did he speak the human language, he even defeated her god-tier combat bear beast. She had to get this bird. Gong Xiaoju clenched her fists and her eyes flickered. He didn't even try to hide his gaze. Yiqing Luo casually glanced at him, and her lips couldn't help but curled into a ridiculing arc. Gong Xiaoju didn't feel that there was anything wrong with her greed for Qi Yan. A powerful battle pet deserved a powerful master. The first miss of the Gu residence was merely proficient in using poison. But after all, he was just trash without any profound energy. What are you looking at? Look at your bird grandpa with this kind of eyes again. Be careful that I peck your eyes blind. Qi Yan glanced at Gong Xiaoju disdainfully. The minute he opened his mouth, whatever noble elegance disappeared. Gong Xiaoju was frightened by Qi Yan's vicious gaze as she shrunk her neck. But the desire for Qi Yan in her heart grew even more. Qi Yan flapped his tail and fell into Yiqing Luo's palm. Chapter 4298. Yiqing Luo's jade-like fingers gently caressed Qi Yan's body. The jade-like skin blended with that raging flame. Extremely compatible. The elderly's heart was slightly shocked, but he didn't show any expression on his face. Just now, that force which blocked the pressure he released came from that battle pet. Naturally, the old man had heard about the battle pet from Gong Xiaoju, but he had not expected that battle pet to be so powerful. Yes, powerful. No wonder eldest young miss of the Gu residence was so fearless. Why? Still planning to stand in the dark and watch the show? Suddenly, a young lady's lazy voice rang in the main hall. Everyone's gazes fell onto the young lady in unison. They didn't understand the meaning of the young lady's words. The young lady's beautiful pink lips curled into an extremely faint cold arc. Her half-squinted eyes seemed to be plated with a piece of elegant afterglow. What's the use of the Gu residence nurturing you to trash? There's already someone looking for trouble with your master, and you're still hiding in the corner. What kind of turtle are you? The young lady's voice was clear and pleasant to the ears, but the words she said were bone-chilling. The corners of his mouth were clearly curved into a smile, but between her brows, there was a chill that made one's spine go cold. When the elderly saw this, the expression on his face turned solemn. The gaze he used to look at Yiqing Luo was filled with probing. The others didn't understand what Yiqing Luo was talking about, but they inexplicably heard that she was scolding the people from the Gu residence. This young lady was probably too irritable, scolding her own people. The few of them were looking around, trying to see who was the person Yiqing Luo was talking about. Moments later, under the young lady's smiling yet not smiling gaze, 2 figures, one tall and one short, jumped down from the roof. The 2 of them were dressed in black attire. They could tell that they were the secret guards who were hiding in the dark. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence was scolding these 2 secret guards. Was she trying to change the topic by criticizing the 2 secret guards in front of them? Finally willing to come out, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at the 2 of them with a smile, yet not a smile. Gu Sanxiu's beautiful face twisted. She clenched her teeth and said angrily, "You trash. Who are you calling trash? Also, don't think that you can call yourself the master of the Gu clan just because you're the young miss of the Gu clan. In my eyes, only Lord Bone Lord is the real master." Gu San. Hearing Gu San's words, Gu San's face sank, and he immediately shouted to stop Gu San. He stretched out his hand and pulled out a bone 3. However, he was too slow. The middle-aged men sitting beside him all had strange expressions on their faces after hearing Gusan's words. Were these really the secret guards of the Gu residence? As a hidden guard, he actually dared to talk back to the master of the Gu residence? He even dared to insult the master of the Bone Mansion? They all had different expressions on their faces, and their eyeballs were rolling nonstop. Could it be the first young miss of the Gu clan was actually not favored in the Gu clan? So, even the hidden guards of the Gu residence could suppress her? This thought immediately caused a certain emotion to surge in the hearts of the few of them. His vision kept shifting between Yi Qing Luo and those two secret guards. Facing such a gaze, Yi Qing Luo didn't seem to mind, as her expression was extremely indifferent. After hearing Gu San's words, there wasn't any change in her expression. She tilted her head, as her expression was languid. Really? In this way, you will acknowledge him as your master, right? Chapter 4299. Towards Yi Qing Luo, Gu San was filled with unwillingness ever since he first met her. Especially when Bone Lord used the excuse of eldest young miss is a lady, and you're the only lady among the secret guards, so you can take good care of her, as an excuse to stay by Yi Qing Luo's side. She was a secret guard who risked his life. A secret guard who risked his life for Bone Lord. To protect a frail lady who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken, and a frail lady who appeared out of nowhere. Thinking of this, the disdain on Gu San's face deepened. Who do you think you are, trying in vain to usurp Bone Lord's position? Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept and fixed on Gu Yi. You think so too? Gu Yi was stunned as he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to suddenly point the spearhead at him. He remained silent for a moment as he grabbed Gu San and said, Bone Lord asked me to protect eldest young miss. I will do my best to protect eldest young Mississippi. The meaning behind his words. He actually agreed with Gu San's words. They were Bone Lord's secret guards. They would only acknowledge Bone Lord as their master. The reason why they were here was merely to comply with Bone Lord's orders. The few of them looked at these two secret guards' gazes as they became even stranger. From the looks of it, this eldest young miss of the Gu residence really wasn't pampered by Bone Lord. The secret guard's attitude explained everything. Then, could they totally not have any misgivings about Bone Lord? The few of them quietly exchanged glances. From each other's eyes, they saw the same answer. This seemed to be a secret exchange of glances. In actual fact, Yi Qing Luo had seen everything, but she didn't have any reaction. Only half squinting her eyes, which were flickering brilliantly. The smile on her lips became slightly cold. Protect? But I totally didn't see you guys protecting me at all. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she continued. You two secret guards can't even be compared to this little bird war pet of mine. Tell me, are you all trash? You. Gu San's face flushed red as he clenched his teeth and clenched his fists tightly. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't give him a chance to continue speaking as she smiled and ridiculed. Moreover, he asked you to protect me, but you disobeyed his orders, so... Now, shouldn't you use your death to atone for your sins? Gu San's face instantly turned pale. Gu Yi's solemn face also had a layer of coldness. The two of them creased their brows tightly as they stared furiously at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo put on an innocent look as she shrugged her shoulders. Am I wrong? Ha ha, that's right. The old man suddenly laughed and opened his mouth. His murky old eyes were fixed on the two hidden guards. As hidden guards, disobeying the master's orders is indeed a capital crime. The other middle-aged men also echoed, just like the dark guards trained by our family. The dark guards have to do whatever the master says. As a dark guard, they shouldn't have their own emotions. Even if I don't want to accept master's orders, but master's orders, even if I die, I have to complete it. Eldest Miss, such a disrespectful dark guard, deserves to be killed. As the few of them were talking, their gazes were carefully sizing up Yi Qing Luo's expression, as though he was testing Yi Qing Luo's bottom line. Gu 1 and Gu 3's expressions alternated between green and white. Both of them clenched their fists and suppressed the anger in their chests. They cannot refute that, because what these people said was indeed so. Dark guards were not allowed to have their own emotions, just as the atmosphere was in a deadlock. Chapter 4300. Guyan walked briskly into the meeting hall and stood in front of the two secret guards. Guyi's expression moved as his eyes fixed on Guyan for some time, before he slowly lowered his head. "Captain, what are you doing here?" Guyan's expression was cold as she looked at Gu-san. That gaze seemed to be reprimanding Gu-san with "What are you up to this time?" This caused Gu-san's emotions to rise explosively. "Guyan, what right do you have to question me? Don't think that just because you're hugging her thigh, you're really the captain of the secret guards. In my heart, the captain is only Gu-e." "Gu-san." Gu-e tugged Gu-san's arm hard. "Apologize to the captain." Gu-san gave a heavy harumph as he turned his head away. Gu-e still wanted to say something. The girl who was sitting lazily suddenly stood up. In a split second, the entire hall fell into a dead silence. Everyone's vision involuntarily turned towards Yi-Ching Luo. She was like a natural-born queen. Every move she made was able to attract everyone's attention. "There's no need to apologize." Yi-Ching Luo's indifferent voice revealed a trace of coldness. She gently caressed the phoenix feathers as she lazily raised her eyelids. "Gu-yun, as the newly appointed captain, secret guards disobeying orders, disobeying discipline, and offending their superiors, what punishment should they receive?" Guyan heard the faint anger in Yi-Ching Luo's tone. She took a look at the pale-faced Gu-san and Gu-e, whose expression wasn't too good, as she pursed her lips and replied, "Remove the secret guard title and, as a traitor, execute the punishment of dismemberment by 5 horses." Yi-Ching Luo raised her hand as her fingers moved lightly. "Then we'll do it this way." Gu-yun was stunned as her face was filled with hesitation. Her hesitation wasn't because she was concerned about Gu-e and Gu-san, but she was worried if Yi-Ching Luo's action would cause the other secret guards to retaliate. After all, this Gu-e had been the captain for 10 years. In the Gu residence's secret guards, most of them were brought up by him. If Yi-Ching Luo moved Gu-e during the period when Bone Lord wasn't in the residence, she was worried that those secret guards would explode because of this. Yi-Ching Luo saw through Gu-yun's thoughts as her lips curled upwards, her smile bright and beautiful. "You're now the captain of the secret guards. No need to worry." Gu-yun's expression was complicated, but she still obeyed Yi-Ching Luo's command as she turned around to look at the two people behind her. Her expression was extremely solemn, without the slightest emotion. Gu-san realized that Gu-yun was serious. Her face instantly turned pale, and her body trembled with all her might. "You can't do this. Gu-yun, Gu-jun is not in the residence now. If you dare to touch us, not you guys, it's you." Yi-Ching Luo indifferently interrupted her words. Gu-san's pupils suddenly widened as he stared venomously at Yi-Ching Luo. "You dare? You can feel for yourself whether I dare or not." Yi-Ching Luo smiled wickedly. "Eldest young miss." Gu-san frowned as he took a look at Gu-san and cupped his fists towards Yi-Ching Luo. However, he did not finish his words. The young girl had already decisively interrupted his words. "I spared your life because I admire your strength. It's quite a pity for you to die like this. Moreover, you're quite polite." He was demoted from his position as the captain of the Dark Guard. Although he was unwilling, but he still abided by his duty. Towards Gu-e, Yi-Ching Luo didn't have much opinion. Her motive was merely to get that annoying female secret guard to death. Why did a woman make things difficult for another woman, creating trouble time and time again? You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.